21 Ndu,
Yes.
the 10th day of February,
Right.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. I'm with you.
You're with us
On
today?
the same day.
Okay. Good. Yeah. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. How are you doing?
Very well.
Super duper. Your day was good yesterday? I'm very happy to hear that. Good to see you in one piece.
City? How about you?
Good morning, sir.
You're well?
Hamjambo wangwana.
Angana assalamu alaikum.
Sisi jambo.
Our friend Mohammed has been quiet for a while. Hope
We
he's well.
must look for Mohammed. He's been very quiet.
Hope he's well.
Well, we shall find out.
Yes.
Yes.
Mohammed, if you're hearing us, please, get in touch, brother.
Tell us how you're doing, man.
Yeah.
Tell us whether it is raining. Mwakijembe, Kwale County.
Mwakijembe, Kinango.
Yes, Kinango is a sub-county.
Okay, so welcome to the show, everybody. Today is lovely. Why is it raining in early February? I thought the long rains come in mid-March.
Look, I've never been able to figure out Kenyan seasons. I don't get it. So
We don't have seasons, it just rains.
the
Or it
seasons
doesn't.
in Kenya.
Adati?
I've never been able to figure out Kenyan seasons.
And if you had to figure them out, what would they be?
Then I would know that this particular time that you expect it to rain, I would know this particular time you expect it to be dry or cold or such.
Why do you want to know these things? Look, when it's raining, is it not obvious it is raining?
Come about, Eric is asking why it's raining.
When
and
it
it's
is
not
cold,
supposed
is
to
it
be
not
raining.
obvious it is cold? Why then do you want to know? And you can see it is cold.
You know, isn't it a puzzle though that it's raining at this
No.
time? And it shouldn't be. This is a question that Eric started all of
Why
us.
are we making a puzzle from something that is not a puzzle? It is raining,
End of
it is
story.
drizzling, it is also cold. Full
Okay,
stop.
don't vex now, uncle.
When it stops being cold,
Then it is warm.
then it is not cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So like it rains and then it stops.
No
Now,
vex
do we
now.
need to be told it has stopped? So we know it has stopped.
Way.
But in all honesty, I find this very confusing also.
There's a way.
Man, it's absolutely.
It's
There were times
weird.
we had short rains, long rains. Man, that went out of the window a
Since
long
2019,
time ago.
we've been in one long rain season.
Okay, so when you were in school, right, and learning within your environmental, social studies, that kind of science, you knew that the long rains were a particular time, no?
Honey, why didn't you just mention geography? Because
All join, don't worry. Because now it's
Environmental, social studies,
Studies,
cultural
social
affairs,
affairs,
and religious.
and mathematics while you're at it.
yes,
So, didn't you know that the short rains were a particular time and the long rains were at a particular time?
what is even interesting, the sports calendar of schools was determined by,
By the weather.
This-
Yeah.
Yes, so you knew during this season you had this sort of sport and it.
Exactly. That's what I'm asking. Let's see, because like now in the US, kids go on holiday in June because they're going into the summer months and everybody can be outside and whatever, you know. So and they plan the year according to the weather. That's what I'm asking. You know, what was
Even
it like?
us, you see, the problem is us, we have one long summer. It's just that there are hot summers and there are cold summers. Then there are rainy summers. So you can give it another name. When it gets very cold, you can call it the wintry summer. Because the sun still comes out at some point, you feel a little warmth. But all that really, that consistency that you're speaking of, that one went out of the window.
Yeah.
Sour.
Gone are the days when it would be raining around Easter.
Forget that one.
And then, later in the year, towards December, somewhere, there'll be the short rain.
You knew that. Now,
Either you're out there and it's raining or it's not.
and the truth is, even the Met, by the way, that particular process of looking at the weather and determining what's going to happen, it's not only very scientific, it's actually fairly accurate.
Yep.
But even they have been spun. You think the signs are this and you indicate, and then something else happens that you couldn't figure out. Climate change is with us,
It is.
and it is real.
It is.
Things change. So, we're going to have interesting conversations today. We'll revisit the conversation about seeking to study in Japan. Dr. Maiduri Daimon will be speaking to us again from Japan. She will tell us what it is that Kenyan students can do to access these learning opportunities in that country. We'll also be looking at business. So, The skies were reopened last year after that lockdown, and Kenyan Airlines, among them Jumbo Jet, now had to come back into trying to get things moving. So let's see, how has Jumbo Jet fared since then? How is it doing? We also know that there's demolitions happening in various parts of the country because Kenya Railways is reclaiming its land. It has issued a big statement today talking about the land reclamation exercise, saying that the Kenya Railways values diversity, cooperation, and respects the rule of law. While at the same time, there are people who will not see any of that diversity, respect, rule of law, nothing. People in Kibos, for example, in Kisumu, their homes were demolished. And these have been there for many years. People in other parts of the country, in other parts of Kisumu as well, whose homes and businesses were demolished. These have been there for very many years. They just don't understand how Kenya Railways comes in. We'll have a conversation with Amnesty International and some of the affected families on that this morning. We'll also be talking Agri-Talk, where we encourage discourse on agriculture, food security, and agribusiness. So let's kick off the show by just looking at COVID-19 in numbers. Hilary Mutyambai has issued a statement. He says, police enforce COVID-19 measures. Ministry of Health has issued a statement saying, watch out. There's COVID-19 variants.
Right, so there is that fear that in most port cities, or ports of entry rather, that it is possible that these would be seeping or entry points for COVID-19 to come into the country, specifically variants of the same. So the alarm bells are ringing, are clanging quite loudly right now. And there's a call for real checking and making sure. So then I'm made to wonder that in terms of the checking and surveillance, COVID-19, it seems to have flown out the window. And so now it's being reinstituted. So there's some fear. There's some fear that we'll find COVID-19 in schools. There is, again, coming from the Ministry of Health, that, keep on the watch because we don't know what would come in or not. I don't know if this all coincides with what we were told that come March or so, we would see a rise in infections of COVID in the country. Now, after certain things had happened, after schools had reopened, after people had settled down from going on holiday and such, and the skies being opened again, people coming into the country, we're likely to see this. We heard, from, the training in Laikipia, the British Army, and that they already have, found some of these cases of a second variant. So, look, all of these things happening at the same time and saying, all right, let's be on the watch out. Police, be on the watch out. Hospitals, be on the watch. Schools, be on the watch. We've heard unconfirmed reports that some schools have already gotten a few cases of COVID-19 yet to be made public. We'll have a look at that as the days go by. But let's look at the numbers around the world. 107 million is where we are now. 107,401,791. Whereas we have these fears that are coming in every now and then, coming into the country here, Kenya, Rwanda, the southern part of Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, we still have a decline in the number of infections around the world. Okay? Although the US, for example, is very close to 28 million cases, they've lost 479,000 people to COVID-19. If we look at the specific numbers that are taking place, or rather that are being recorded in Kenya right now, Kenya has 102,048 COVID-19 cases, has recorded such so far. And the cases that have been reported as of yesterday, 104 new cases, 3 new deaths in the country, still low numbers, but with this surveillance that is being asked of different agencies in the country, possible reinfections and possible new variant infections in the country. So we're likely to see a little bit more activity in the next few days. Also, in the next few days, the vaccines, the 12 million doses, the 24 million vaccine doses should arrive in the country. They'll be here. In terms of communication, we still don't know how exactly this will be rolled out, but
they've said they'll be here on which day?
They have not said which day, but they said in the next 5 or 6 days, from the 13th moving towards the 16th, we should see some activity as far as this is concerned, right? So they talked about the second week of February.
Okay.
So that's
Second
what
week
we're
of February. 1 week is 7 days old.
we sir.
So by the 10th, it means that we are somewhere in the second week.
Somewhere between the 10th and the 14th.
Actually, not necessarily. The first week of 1 to 7, week 1.
Yep.
We've already gone there. We are in the second
We are in the
week,
second week.
of
Yeah.
February.
So between today and next week, Monday, we should see some activity.
So between the second and third week.
So
Let's just say in March.
In the course of this
Yeah.
week,
wow.
we can expect to get clearer information about when the vaccines will arrive in March.
Or April. Or Oxford is having these with the Oxford AstraZeneca. There is supply issues as well. There's high demand for this across the globe. So when the Ministry of Health issued that alert yesterday, be on the lookout for the second variant, heightened alert, at the points of entry, reactivate the testing, the labs, blah, 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 blah. Good words. What does that mean, though? So what has JKIA been told to do, the Port Health in JKIA? What are they being told to do exactly?
Well, I mean, reinstitute their surveillance. So now when you say reinstitute, does that mean that it had stopped at some point and that nobody was really checking in terms of what was going on? Because when you say...
Words.
This is the thing. They actually said reinstitute. And then we had several people from medical fraternity saying, hold on a minute. What do you mean reinstitute?
Yep.
You mean that we had stopped? Had we stopped the surveillance of COVID-19, of those coming in into the country and leaving? Had it stopped? So, I mean... That's the question now that folks are wondering what exactly had happened.
Jokes galore, man. Tuendelee kuomba Mungu. Jokes
Sometimes I think those in government will feel they are unappreciated. They are actually appreciated if only they would be clearer. And clarity here means saying something, then we see it done. Then there's clarity.
Yeah.
If you just say it, those words join the long queue of words we hear all the time. And those words often mean nothing, really, because the substance of it is in the doing. But in just the saying, it might as well be a puff of smoke.
It's just many, many, many stories. It'll just be stories, stories, stories. Alerts to counties on the global emergence of new SARS-CoV-2 variants of concern. So, county health departments and port health services are expected to do the following, according to the Director General of Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth. Number 1, enhance entry screening of travellers at all official points of entry and high-volume unofficial border crossing points. That is, enhance entry screening. Enhance surveillance up to the household level to promptly identify COVID-19 suspected cases with history of international travel and also detect new clusters of suspected COVID-19 cases and deaths. To achieve this, they have been told counties are encouraged to utilize community health volunteers and engage Nyumba Kumi initiative committees, enhance cross-border disease surveillance activities, reactivate rapid response teams and facilitate them to respond timely, strengthen lab capacity for specimen collection, scale up risk communication and community engagement activities, enhance involvement of all relevant stakeholders, for example, security, to ensure compliance with the recommended public health and social measures. Yeah.
Okay.
That
So, I
is
mean,
what they should do.
An alert
Enhance,
has been
enhance,
put out.
enhance.
Okay.
And make sure that the rapid response is in place. You can reactivate it. 6:15. Good morning. Let's see how the weather looks like. Some parts of Nairobi were raining this morning. Some parts of Nairobi were not raining this morning. Some parts of the country could be raining. Some parts of the world are frozen, stiff.
Frozen.
All right, if you're online, let's hear you out. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, or Twitter. Say good morning to us. We will say good morning right back at you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
All right. Nairobi,
The weather
17 degrees
with-
and mostly cloudy this morning. Yes, rain in some parts of the city. Highs of 23 and lows of 16. We're looking at light rain in Nyeri at 14. Highs of 21 and lows of 13. It's cloudy in Nakuru at 16. We're going to see highs of 22 today. Eldoret will have highs of 23, currently raining at 14. It's also raining in Kisumu at 21, highs of 30 and lows of 20 today. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 18 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 17. We're going to see highs of 31 in Mombasa, 26 and partly cloudy. It's also 26 and partly cloudy in Malindi, a chance of rain later, highs of 31 and lows of 26. We'll see highs of 27 in Kampala, where it's raining at the moment at 19. Partly cloudy conditions rule the skies in Dar es Salaam at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's also partly cloudy in Johannesburg at 17 degrees. Chance of rain very early this morning, highs of 25, highs of 34 in Lagos. It's also raining here at 27 degrees. We'll see that as the low for today. Clear skies in Kinshasa at 23 for now, highs of 30 and lows of 23. We see sunny conditions in Beijing for a change. It is quite chilly though, however, at 5 degrees. It'll go to highs of 14 today and lows of -7. Snow showers, rain combined with snow this morning. -2 in Paris, highs of just 0 and lows of -6. It's also flat on 0 in London, where it's also snowing. Highs of 1 and lows of -6 and -1 clear skies in New York come Tuesday night. Coming into Wednesday morning, we'll see highs of 1 and lows of -4.
Spice and everything nice. All right. Spice it.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
18 minutes after 6 o'clock. Good morning, wherever you are.
Okay, well, everybody says good morning today. Samuel Weru says it's raining heavily in Muruga. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Hey, you very good.
Yeah?
Congratulations.
Very, 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 very
Thank
good.
you
Very
very
Yes.
much. So Samuel Weru says good morning to everybody today.
Very famous place, Muguga.
Is it?
Oh, yes.
Where exactly is it?
Nairobi, Naivasha Road.
Okay.
Just
Nairobi,
along there. Pass to Dhiru. Continue.
Pastor Reagan.
Yes, and research center.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that has to do with forestry to Muguga. Yes,
Okay.
and also other famous people also come from there.
I see it clearly now. Okay. Good morning, good people, and that's from Barnabas Gore. Juma Mashallah says, hello and good morning, plugged in from Likoni. Well, welcome to the Situation Room. County 001 is tuned in. Eric, where is that again? According to Roger's lie.
Okay. County 001.
Yeah.
That should be Turkana.
Oh, okay. Good for you. Ondicho. Of course not. It's tuned in from Kwamtusi Mwingi this morning. Robert in the actual County 001
Turkana's
says hello
23,
from
boy.
Mombasa.
23, Mombasa's one. Hiya.
The actual County 001 is where Robert Mbogo is this morning and
Mombasa.
says good morning. Victor Saropoulos.
If anyone doesn't know County 001 and County 047, those
a
ones, yes.
Then surely
Anything else in between now, that's an issue.
take a break, leave the country for a while, and then come back. Yes.
Okay, Harold Doyodo says good morning. And he says Kenya Railways should follow the rule of law. Oh, okay. And why demolish homes at night when it's raining? Well, definitely we're going to have a conversation about that today. Waterman Jeffrey says good morning, tuned in from Minneapolis. Moses Kashari says good morning. He's tuned in from Juja and says, yeah, COVID rules were never followed in the market. Schools, matatus, restaurants try to do their best, but rules not followed. Stanley Ngashi Stan says, good morning, team. He's looking for Mohammed. Oh, not that. Okay, not that Mohammed. Anyway, well, so he says good morning. Enrique Aguanda says good morning from Maseno. And in Kiganjo Thika, Ken Adi Wizzy says good morning. Liverson D.E. Rashbawi says, Taita Taveta, we are not getting you this morning. Why?
Entitled Chapter. Hello.
You have to look into that one, no?
Tutaangalia haya maneno.
Anyway, everybody's tuned in this morning. Good morning, guys, and good to have you in the show.
Yep. Everybody, good morning, and thank you very much for tuning in this morning. So, Siti, today's proverb tafadhali.
Indeed. Today's proverb. I have decided that until the end of this week, all the proverbs that I will be citing will have something to do with either leadership or something to do with social matters.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. When a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful.
When a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And if not,
Oh.
Check.
Oh.
so it's important to keep firing counselors who write you letters in the middle of the night.
Careful before you answer that question.
I'm not even going to attempt to answer it because, you see, in these political matters, the perspective you have depends very much on who you ask the question. If you are to ask the person who supposedly has been fired, they'll give you a perspective. If you ask people who were behind the firing, they'll give you a different response. If you ask others who are in a position that we now consider to be the position of the official opposition, they will give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Okay. Okay. Bottom line is king, good counselors, peace. Is equals peace.
it's an Ashanti saying.
All right.
Yes.
Let's look at the headlines. So, that report that was to be tabled yesterday, to be presented yesterday by the task force on CBC, was finally presented in the presence of the president himself. And there are a couple of changes that have now been announced and will be adopted. Among them, KCPE, KCSE scrapped to be replaced by a combination of school-based and summative assessments. Secondary schools are going to have both junior and secondary school sections. Secondary school is not going to be 4 years, it's going to be 6 years. Learners to transition to secondary school younger after grade 6, but spend 6 years in secondary school. The third major curriculum change after the 65 and 85 education reforms. Now, grade 4 learners, the Pioneer CBC class, will be joining university in 8 years' time, 2029. 60% of learners are expected to go into the STEM pathway in senior secondary. 25% will go into social sciences, and 15% are expected to end up in arts and sports science pathway. So this is what was presented yesterday. A number of things that came out of that report, right? The Ministry of Education, the Commission for University Education and Universities will review and align their teacher education programs to the CBC. All these things that we're talking about. So even the matter of boarding. So boarding was also addressed, and they said that boarding is going to be on special circumstances and on need basis. Not necessarily saying that, secondary school boarding is the norm. All 10,359 secondary schools in the country are going to host the junior and senior levels. So when you get to that grade, and that is grade 6, from grade 7, you're in junior secondary school. Yep, for 3 years. For 2 years, and then you go into 3, then you go into senior secondary.
So you're in primary school for 6 years, then you're in high school for 6 years, secondary school for 6 years. All right. Okay. Well, it looks like it's going to be greeted.
No.
Yeah.
You've said high school and secondary school. That's one.
Yeah, I know. I just said an extra word there, but I mean, so essentially, primary school for 6 years, secondary school for 6 years, and that's how it has been split.
Yes, and then university for 4.
For 4 years. Well, it'll be interesting to see if this report is adopted and then made.
It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
It's done. It was taken up by the president and said, yes, this is it. We are here. We are at the cusp of changing the country, and we need to move forward.
In terms of implementation, what are we looking at immediately?
Immediately. So the immediate thing is the grade 4s continue. All right. The new people enter, and they start basically. Everybody who joins school now is joining into CBC. The pioneers are the grade 3s of last year, who are the grade 4s this year, who will be in university in 2029. So by the time they get to grade 6, they'll not be doing a TKCPE. They'll be doing a summative assessment. And now this one is going to be looking at what you have the continuous assessment throughout, and 60% of the continuous assessment component, and then 40% now will come into this one summative assessment. Kenya National Examinations Council to set percentage scores for the CATs and the national exams at the grade 9 and 12.
Okay.
So grade 9 is why you do that for that test
That's it, yeah.
to enter into
High
senior
secondary school.
senior secondary, and then grade 12 to move into university.
Okay.
And at what point are TVETs considered in this whole discussion?
In that whole area. So the senior secondary is where now you see they branch off into various disciplines. So that's where now you start
And what determines the branching off?
that whole assessment.
So
the entire assessment basically looks at if you're strong in STEMs, you'll move into a secondary school, into a senior secondary school that is focusing on STEMs. And the subjects that you will take focus on STEMs. Others will move into social sciences. Others will move into arts and sports. And then from that point on, now you can go either into university or you can go into the TVETs.
You see, this is why don't we have university education level for the TVETs as well?
So you do degree at TVET.
But why not? I mean, if that is the highest point of learning in anything, why not have that level of learning for the TVETs as well? Because so long as there's that demarcation, then you are implying that there's a form of education that is superior to another. You're more or less saying that, you don't, for this one, there's a degree holder, but you, with your plumbing, you do not necessarily, yes.
I think the beginning of this is, and you are a great champion for TVETs, is what you've talked about. So what is it that happens in university? University, you're looking more at the research side of things, and TVET, you're looking more at the practical side of things.
Yes.
So probably start from that. You start from this TVET to get the more practical. If you'd like to advance and get to a level of degree where it's more research, more looking at advancement, you can still go into getting the undergrad.
If you look at the systems,
but the TVETs will be the diplomas and the higher national diplomas.
Yeah, but you see, if you look at the content of the higher national diploma and balance it against what is considered to be a degree course, you'll find that the higher diploma probably goes beyond what a degree offers, because it isn't accidental that employers preferred to have people who studied in polytechnics when it came to technical things. It isn't accidental. It isn't accidental that people would go for what you call a higher diploma, which, well, call it a higher diploma if you like, but if you look at the content and what it is that those people do, someone is actually doing a master's program.
Yep.
Yes. There's a diploma, then there's a higher diploma. If you look at the content of a diploma, some of these technical courses, what the diploma people study is the equivalent of a degree. For the longest time, Egerton University offered diploma courses in agricultural courses right across the board. But it was a 3-year course, and people got in there after Form 6. Now, what these individuals studied was not just theory. My friend, by the time you left that university, you knew exactly that. Well, it was then college. You knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, the technical skills.
Yes, you did. But it was assumed it was a diploma. Why am I harping on this? So long as you say something is a diploma, it is considered to be a lesser qualification.
So mindset.
Yes.
So so in order to address that mindset, instead of us promoting and saying diploma does not mean, you want us to say
equivalent to.
Call it degree.
Call it what, but it's
I've
equivalent
got a TVET's
to
degree,
because it is also not treated as an equivalent. I'll explain. If you look at advertisements for employment, you'll find diploma, degree in this is an added advantage. Already the demarcation is set.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you look at the actual ability and skill of the individual, you will find that the difference is very difficult to understand. Now,
I hear what you're saying, City. But I think we need to approach it from the other side, from promoting this TVET qualification for what it is. Like you've said yourself, in those early days, employers would prefer somebody with a diploma and a higher national diploma to somebody who has a degree, especially
Yes.
for
The
certain
technical
levels.
or
So
like,
when you see now, when somebody is rising higher and higher up in management, that's when now you encourage them. Maybe you can go and do a degree, and then now the degree will be on other matters, maybe management. So you get
or it gives you a wider perspective, of that
perspective.
particular field.
Yeah. So if employers actually started now embracing the TVET and saying, okay, so we're looking and taking people who have got the technical skill and know-how, and that is what even in our advert is saying. We're looking for somebody with a diploma in this, and the other, which has been carefully developed by the TVET and Commission for Higher Education. Then it'll be fine.
The disadvantage is that with your higher diploma, somebody who comes with a degree in engineering will be your boss.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yet you are the person who actually ends
You
up...
know this
You
whole...
know it in and out.
You teach the person actually because yes, you do.
Yeah.
Because the person understands the broad specs of the issue, but the actual doing, you are the one who knows it.
It's unfortunate. It's the same thing in the military. You have fought very many wars. You have only risen to warrant officer 1.
Yes.
Somebody who has come from university the other day goes into cadet training, comes and becomes a lieutenant. He's your boss.
And the only thing that person has fought is the grass he was running through when he was training during his cadet
That's
time.
it.
Yes.
And they'll always be your boss.
Always.
28 minutes to 7. Let's take a break to see what's happening on the roads and then look at other headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
From 1902, the Standard Group has transformed to help steer the ship in the right direction and become one of the leading media houses in Africa. With 4 TV channels, 3 radio stations, robust digital platform, and numerous progressive initiatives, we are everywhere our audiences are. We don't just bring content, but content that inspires and motivates the people who've supported us over the years. It is the pillar that will forever cement and uphold our heritage as the Standard Group. The Standard Group. It's our future's heritage.
Okay, so today is the day that everybody should have left on time, and if you didn't, we're going to have crazy traffic already today. So let's just start off with the it was given a warning this morning, at least for today. There's a planned diversion at Kangemi along Waiaki Way as part of the ongoing road construction with effect from today, and so there's going to be heavy traffic and other challenges that are expected. Please plan accordingly. If you can, use alternate routes where possible. Please ensure that your doors are locked, windows are up, valuables and electronics are out of sight, and practice awareness at all times. This is coming out from the Highways Authority to let us know what's happening on that road specifically today because of the expanded construction going on. So eye on Waiaki Way going towards Kangemi and out in that direction too. We already see heavy traffic coming out of there right now. Yes,
locked.
because there'll be more people on the road in terms of construction workers, and they're saying that we're not sure how safe it will be. So the Highways Authority is saying, everybody please be safe, and if you don't have to have your windows open, do not. Okay? Mombasa Road is clear until everybody wakes up at 7 o'clock and is out on the road at the same time, so let's look out for that one as well. We'll give you more details in a short bit about what the roads look like, but it's likely to be a crazy day. Don't forget, there's a drizzle in some parts of the city, so the roads are a bit slippery. Be careful. Talk to us, whatever the case may be. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text us on 40127. Let's see how it looks like in about half hour.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, it's 25 minutes to 7. More headlines in the papers. City, Ondo, go fast. Who?
Okay, digital lenders lock out bad borrowers. This is carried in the Nation today. We saw those reports earlier of some 14 million mobile loan accounts being listed with many credit reference bureau. Kelvin Mwangi, resident of Royo, turned to a mobile lender when he needed medicine from a chemist last year. He had an outstanding loan, so he quickly cleared and attempted to borrow a bigger amount to buy the drugs. He was shocked when his application was denied. Although he was sick, he said, these small loans are what I depend on to be able to get more money. And he's able to borrow from even other lenders because where he would have been listed. There are many other stories of the same. So now we saw a report having been released in June last year talking about the financial impact of COVID in COVID-19 in Sub-Sahara, and said that 36% of those who responded in Kenya said that they relied on loans to cover basic expenses like food, while just 16% said that they rely fully on their incomes. So by April last year, the central bank had issued a 6-month order to mobile loan lenders to stop listing names of people, defaulters on the CRB. The directive made many lenders cut back on credit to high-risk borrowers, and this suspension was lifted on the 1st of October. Now, after that, a large number of debt limits were downgraded to zero after a sharp rise in non-performing loans, and it turns out now that they have decided that anybody who's listed now will not be able to get a loan. Whereby previously, if you had been listed and you had taken a facility, somebody else somewhere would have given you a facility. But now what we are seeing is that the Digital Lenders Association have decided that they will not do this anymore. So that what people had counted on, even though you had not been able to pay on one side, they can no longer count on that again because they've come together to say that this cannot work anymore.
You know, consider, for instance, the perspective of the digital lenders. Apart from the information they can get online of you and from the CRB, they're actually fairly exposed.
True.
So if someone actually doesn't pay and has, it's not a record, just a bleep that you didn't pay once, they have no reason to trust that you will pay in the future. See, banks understand that. You have a long-standing relationship with them, and they have ways and means of ensuring that they get their money, either through your employer, either through this. These digital lenders don't have that luxury. No. So you cannot blame them for taking that particular stance that they have taken. If you look at, say, some of these digital lenders who lend you money, these aren't digital, but they lend you money with the logbook of your vehicle, all right? What you essentially do is you sign over. The transfer form is fully signed. Now, default is you're supposed to pay on this day, you didn't pay, okay? They'll give you some leeway, but that car already belongs to them. Now, the problem arises that you have more cars than you know what to do with.
And they're not able to offload
You won't liquidate. It's a problem that banks have had with people who had collateral of houses and land. They are no takers. People who have money are not going to buy land right now. They'd rather just keep their money. So, again, it is an unfortunate situation, but you have to understand the perspective of the lenders. Yes.
Yep.
It's tough business. I don't know. It's okay.
But also, if I were now to just be academic about it, surely if that is your business, get a little more creative.
In terms of how to lend?
Yes, because you're using a format, a platform that you've been using for the longest time when there was no COVID. Now there's COVID. Do you have people who've come up with innovations for lending money in these COVID times that takes into account COVID? Look at the insurance industry. They've been grappling with this thing. And there are signs that they're trying to figure out how best to do this thing, how best to work it. They're trying. Whether they've come up with a solution, I haven't seen one yet. But COVID is still a no-no. But they are trying. They begin to realize that you can't do what you were doing before because, one, with COVID, many people are cancelling policies, many people are cashing in. That reality is forcing them to rethink the way they do their business. Okay? Now, if you want to conduct your business in the way you conducted it before this pandemic, this life-changing, situation-changing, social living, adjusting situation, then unfortunately you may not last very long even in that business of yours.
Yeah, but these guys being disruptors as they are, because they came in and disrupted the entire lending system, I'm sure they're thinking of something. Let's see what they come up with.
You know, they've had a year to think of it. Huh? Okay?
Yeah.
They have had a
It's
year
an
to
evolving situation.
They have had a year to think of it, and since nothing has come up, I can categorically say I've seen nothing.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. But maybe some things you just can't come up with. Okay, anyway. Wako kwa shida. Tuseme tu hivyo.
Hawako kwa shida, ni biashara walianza. Na kama umeanza biashara, si biashara ni yako.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jipange.
Yes.
Okay. Civil servants and Kenya Airways among the big gainers in the supplementary budget that's being presented by the Cabinet Secretary in the National Treasury, Ukur Yatani, who's proposing expansion of the current year's budget by 120 billion shillings. All right. So the supplementary budget tabled in Parliament yesterday going to take our budget to 3 trillion already this financial year. It means that our current financial year's budget will hit 3 trillion. Watch out now, the one we're talking about next year is going to be 3 point something trillion. This one, 3 trillion. Higher. It seeks to address post-COVID-19 related interventions, provisions for security-related expenditure, pending bills, salary shortfall, and phase 4 of job evaluation, changes in development partners funding projects, and scaling down of expenditures to achieve the targeted overall fiscal deficit level. KQ is set to get 10 billion shillings from 2 different allocations. 8 billion shillings to enable the airline to sustain basic operations during and after COVID pandemic, an additional 40 million shillings for public debt management support project for the airline. This will be allocated through the National Treasury's Public Financial Management votes. So Kenya Airways, to stay afloat, is getting that kind of good money. The second cash injection into KQ is through its parent ministry, the Department of Transport, where it has been given another 2 billion shillings cash injection to also cushion it against the impact of the global health crisis that's affected air transport. There's still no funding for the upcoming referendum in the new budget, in which the Treasury has only allocated 621 million shillings to IEBC for various by-elections. Neither is there a provision for 4 billion shillings sweetheart car grant deal to the ward reps as enticement to pass the referendum bill. I don't know how that is going to come, because as we saw yesterday, the Commission on the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has already said, yeah. I mean, it's okay. This the car grant is a warranted grant, so they get it. So yeah, so the supplementary budget is going to Parliament, and as you can see, what's happening in Parliament, you don't expect anybody to ask any question that
About
will be
anything.
Yes.
You know what is interesting is that the Business Daily reports this 10 billion shilling bailout as a secret bailout. And they're saying that despite having publicly said it will reject the national carrier's request for funds to avoid collapse amidst all this effort in the pandemic, what have you. No, the what have you is mine. It's not written here. But you know something? This is what governments do. Kenya Airways had a problem, and a real one.
Yeah.
Okay? So, that they want to bail out Kenya Airways is a good thing.
Yeah, it needs to stay afloat.
It's a good thing.
It needs some support, so it gets that support.
Okay.
But,
Yes.
just so that you understand, NIS Defense Ministry get 7.7 billion for COVID fight. Since we're on that subject of who's getting what.
Oh, they've just started fighting COVID?
Defense Ministry.
And the National Intelligence Service have received 7.69 billion to enhance security operations and fund programs, including those related to containment of COVID-19.
This is an extra in the supplementary
An additional
budget.
amount.
It's a
Because
mini budget.
already,
Yes.
already NIS got quite some good sum in the budget itself. And the same line that, we are fighting
Fighting
COVID.
COVID, yeah. That was what it was for.
So now NIS, whose expenditure you don't keep questioning here and there, and the Ministry of Defense, whose expenditure you also don't keep questioning here and there, are getting extra how much?
Actually, this is what was... Let me just read out the division for you. Okay? It's not they're going to get, they've got.
Oh.
They have received. Not they're going to receive, they have received. Okay? The 3.1 billion was given to the Defense Ministry, NIS 4.5 billion. This was the first half of the current financial year with the approval of Parliament. It's just a report of the money that they have received. Now, one doesn't often discuss why these people receive this amounts of money and whether it's enough or whether it's too much. It's never really debated. But it points to something that, and this is why I brought it up, something we've discussed very often here. The country actually does have money.
Well, clearly, it does.
7 billion is not pocket change.
It is not.
It's some good money.
Yes,
man.
it is not money for buying vegetables. Okay?
But remember, there's an election next year.
I am aware there's an election next year. I am aware the campaigning has begun last year. I'm aware. Did we not
And also
have,
money
don't
has
we
to be
have
set
in our
aside.
laws a ruling as to when campaigns should actually begin?
Officially, yes.
Yep.
When they begin and when they end.
And officially they have begun. Is it within the time that is stipulated in our laws?
It's not a campaign.
Of course it's a
We're
campaign.
just talking about what Kenya needs. Campaign, when you say vote for me, and you print posters and you post them on the
Also,
roads.
without posters, it's not a campaign.
Yeah, no. Without posters, it's not a campaign.
Okay. And the
Claro.
digital footprint and all that, that isn't posting anything, is it?
As long as you're not saying vote for me,
And there's no picture saying
tano tena or tano yang kumi yangu.
it is not a campaign.
No.
Okay. So it's that season. So all manner of things that ordinarily would happen won't happen.
No.
Or things that you think cannot happen will happen. And pigs will fly.
Yeah.
They will. I thought to let you know that the court has allowed former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko to seek treatment. So he spent last night at the Nairobi hospital, away from the cold floors of the Gigiri police station, for the first time in 9 days, after a court declined to remand him at committee maximum prison. This was despite a spirited fight by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji's team, to have Sonko sent to committee. Anti-terrorism police unit officers stormed the hospital in some drama in the morning and took Mr. Sonko after learning he had been taken there. Oh no. The former governor had complained of stomach pains while at the police station Monday night. He was then taken to hospital where he was admitted and obtained a report indicating he was unwell. He was ill. On learning that the politician, could not attend his bail hearing at the Kiambu Law Court, the unit team, which had been guarding him, made its way to the hospital. The hospital management and security, who appeared to have been caught off guard, could not prevent the more than a dozen heavily armed men from taking the former governor. He was immediately put in a vehicle and driven to Kiambu. After a stormy session characterized by complaints from Mr. Sonko's lawyer, Chief Magistrate Stella Atombo freed him on a 300,000 shilling bond and surety of a similar amount. The court said the prosecution failed to give good reason to deny Mr. Sonko bond. It added that the matters raised by the state could be solved out of court. The prosecution argued that the former governor is a flight risk. The court, however, rejected the application, saying there is no evidence to support it.
Man has no wings.
No, he cannot fly. Not now, at least.
But-
So we will wait and see as per these other charges that have been leveled against him.
So the pictures of anti-terror police unit officers
It was
escorting
like a
man.
movie.
My goodness.
Grief.
I think this is basically a misuse of public resources. This is misuse of state resources. Complete and total misuse of state resources.
It would appear to many eyes that they're trying to stick it to him properly.
on. Yeah. I mean, why go all out to do all these things?
You know, I,
Just so
man
that you
who
can
was
create
ill, no
the
less.
drama, just to send a message to somebody.
let me ask
No,
two
no,
questions.
no.
There are two questions I want to ask. Let me ask one. And what is wrong in sending a message? Remember, this is one aspect
Misuse
of it.
of state
State resources.
resources.
Actually, I have a different perspective on this altogether. Because what seems to be the narrative is that the state is now using its resources, as you're saying, to put pressure on this particular gentleman. What if indeed what the gentleman had been enjoying all along was state protection?
And now you're just
There's
saying
also
that the
that was
process
also
It has been removed.
The protection has been removed.
It
and
has
what
been
you're
removed.
saying it's not anything untoward, but what they would normally do to anybody.
Or what had existed, but what we couldn't see or know because
he
it
was
was protected.
protected.
Yes. But now we are being told there's all this. So in essence, the protection has been removed.
Both of those, CT, are misuse of state resources. If the resources were misused to protect the man, misuse. If the resources are being misused to punish the man, misuse. Look, if, for example, there's this whole allegation of, causing grievous bodily harm on some gentleman in Buruburu how many years ago, and all these things of trying to arm a militia and form some terror organization. If all those things were happening, take action. You should have taken action then.
No. Who are we to decide when the state should take action? They know when they want to pounce and when they don't want to pounce.
No.
As I said,
they should pounce.
I am giving an alternative perspective.
They should pounce immediately.
No, Eric.
When something
Unfortunately, security forces don't quite work that way.
They should work that way.
Sometimes they
But
work.
that's not what we are saying.
This thing of them telling us that,
Across
this
board.
is not how we work.
Across board, this is
Work
what we are
that way.
saying. Nip it in the bud. We've been saying it here for the longest time. It doesn't matter what it is. If somebody has
And nipping it in the bud means following which timetable? Maybe now is when they're nipping it in the bud.
So then you defeat the definition of nipping.
This
in
is
the
No.
a
bud.
stamp, my
Before it has an
friend.
opportunity to grow, you cut it off, man.
But that's what they've done. They've brought it to court.
But this one has already grown, Dad.
No, it hasn't grown. Because how do you bring something to court unless you can prove it exists?
In this case, they clearly couldn't.
So,
according to what the judge said.
So we saw the balaclava-clad and anti-terror police unit officers there because
We saw them, first of all, saw them in Kisii.
because they were going to do what? Because Sonko could have been rescued by his terror organization.
with a helicopter on top
I
of the
wouldn't. I wouldn't know.
He was like
in,
Osama.
In fact, the
but
first time I saw those
anyone.
fellows
Those officers-
was in Kisii. All right?
Those are different.
No, they wore the same sort of thing, but
They could really,
they
those
had,
ones are
they
not
had a face
balaclava.
mask. They had some really heavy-duty, funky-looking guns.
You like?
Okay, and yes, knee pads, really space-like garments. I mean, I liked the only thing, and then some even had dark glasses. Ay, goodness gracious me!
You were just waiting for the
and
soundtrack.
yeah, I mean, movie. Okay, a futuristic movie. Okay, I liked it. Guns pointing down and the
Finger on the trigger.
Yes, exactly. And a guy with a stern face looking as though he has a stomachache, he's trying to pretend he doesn't have. Really nice stuff. Yes.
You know you're a little bit off your
8 to 7. It's time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
When it comes to bridging the information gap to help strengthen the agricultural sector in our country, you can always rely on Farm Kenya to be the glue holding everything together. And now, courtesy of the partnership with Farmster, things couldn't be better. Introducing Farm Kenya platform, and it goes like this. Our SMS service will help farmers upload and publish their products without smartphones, while the Farm Kenya app will allow buyers locate, purchase from, and engage the farmers directly. So if you're a farmer, send a free SMS to 40446 and connect with buyers free for life. That's 40446. If you're a buyer looking for local produce, download the Farm Kenya app from Google Play Store or the... Remember, ukulima sio shamba pekee. Ukulima ni digital. Ukulima ni Farm Kenya platform.
Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
Brought to you by Farm Kenya and Farmster, working to secure your growth.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
6 minutes to 7. Musical chairs in Jubilee. Enter Kangata. Exit Kangata. Stage left. This is it. So Kangata, in barely a year of serving as the chief whip in the Senate, he is now gone as the majority chief whip in the Senate. And this is because of very many other things. According to the Jubilee Secretary General, Raphael Tuju, you don't kiss and tell. Come on. He says it's not about that letter that he wrote to the president. The letter writing to the president is, within his democratic right to express himself, but they had issues with the manner in which the letter was now being addressed, especially if you seek to address the leader of the party, who is also the president of the republic. However, they held another meeting later as the leadership of the Jubilee, and they were having a conversation with Kangata. And Kangata comes out yapping to everybody. Oh, there was a meeting. Oh, they were telling me to resign. Oh, I told them I cannot. Oh, I told them I cannot apologize. Now that's
what they had a problem with.
It's like writing another letter asking to be sacked.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's interesting because he also said yesterday that, you know what, it's clear that he told the truth and he's being punished for having told the truth. But regardless of the circumstances and the consequences, he's still going to continue to speak the truth. And it's interesting because there's a lot of Bible quoting that took place yesterday. And he says, you know what, it doesn't matter because even if I have been the sacrificial lamb here, the truth will come out.
Does he know what the term sacrificial lamb means?
In this case, he believes he's the one.
And what is being sacrificed for exactly?
For telling the truth. And the truth will be out and the truth will set us all free.
Look, you know...
So that
Yes.
it is so that Abraham can be blessed.
All right. Isaac, I've heard you. Now, look, Uhuru is not treading on new ground. No. If you just have a cursory look at the political history of central Kenya, they don't always celebrate their leaders unanimously and happily throughout. No. They often provide some of the strongest opposition to their own leaders. And it started with Uhuru's father. The issue of Jomo being released, the issue of Jomo doing this and the other. The person who actually offered Jomo his seat was not from Kiambu. He was from Murang'a. Okay? Kiambu, where he came from, there are people from there who did not want Jomo. They clearly opposed the issue of Jomo taking any serious position anywhere. They did. When Kibaki became president, there were people who did not stop saying whatever they wanted to say about Kibaki. So, democracy at work. People will... You see, this idea of people following others, you find, yes, they'll follow you up to a point. But at some point, they may disagree with you and they'll disagree loudly. But this time around, because of the digital age in which we live in, we're hearing that noise a little louder.
The decibels are
exactly.
high.
The issues are coming out more often. It's not as though they weren't there before. We just have... It's a season when it is possible to hear all of it at the same time. So it makes quite a din. But here, I want... Holy man of God, let me just take this position from you for a second. I want to prophesy.
Oh, here we go. Even better.
That din will cease. It will cease. And you'll hear a cacophony, a rush to that and a loud one of support for the president in the not too distant future from the very same people who seem to be opposing him.
And we shall wait with bated breath.
Not just wait. The bated breath bit you can leave aside. Just wait. Yes. Please breathe normally.
Things going to change.
Deep breath in, deep breath out. No. Why am I saying this? Because at some level when it comes to politics and politicians and political speak, it's predictable. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes.
Okay. I have to tell you guys this. Remember the horrible story we saw of a woman whose hands were cut off by her husband in 2016? It was 5 years ago now, almost 5 years, about 6 months less. So the man who attempted to kill his wife has been given a 30-year prison term by a court in Machakos. Stephen Gila and Jacqueline Mwende's long dispute centered on their childlessness. Hiding under the cover of darkness, Ngila cut off his wife's hands using a panga after sneaking into her house in Kadama village on the 21st of July in 2016. The couple had separated. She had also sustained serious injuries on her head and back. I think remember seeing those horrid pictures. Senior resident magistrate Brenda Bartow said the attack was grievous. She used a probation report to hand down the sentence to the 38-year-old man. The court has noted, I quote, that the accused is not remorseful. The offense was grave and the victim in the probation statement does not wish for any restitution. I therefore sentence you for the offense of attempted murder. He's been given 14 days to appeal. The man and some of his relatives broke into tears after the sentencing, and a woman shouted and wailed from the courtroom that this ruling was unfair. I guess we also have to remember that the woman whose hands were cut off will never have hands again.
Unfair isn't what? Would they prefer it to be 100?
I'm not sure.
Probably.
We go up to 100.
Probably
that
they
would
wanted
be fair.
more. Probably
Maybe they wanted more.
size.
They wanted the man hanged. But you see, the thing is...
or maybe there was another, underlying story that these people were saying.
The woman who has no hands.
Top of the hour. Thank you. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
Okay, so it seems that some Ngong matatus are on strike, and this is causing some problems here because folks are not able to get into the vehicles to get where they are going. The matatus are on strike because of the entry of another vehicle on this route. So everybody has decided nobody's going anywhere this morning, causing some major traffic on Ngong Road. All right, Valley Road, disaster waiting to happen is what we are being told. There's traffic galore here. There's also traffic galore coming out of Westlands because of the diversion that we were told about will take place today and the construction that's going on around that area. It's already heavy on Thika Road. It's heavy coming off Mombasa Road as well. And the bypasses for now can be used. We're not seeing any problems there going in and out of the city. All right, so it seems like there's going to be some traffic, quite a lot of it in different areas. We're keeping an eye on that. Want to know what's happening in Mombasa? We want to know what's happening in other parts of the country as well. We'll give you an update on that in a short bit. Spice of MKE, that's how you can get to us on Twitter. Text us 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 2.5 minutes after 7. This is the second hour of The Situation Room. We begin this show every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. The only morning talk show in the country and actually in the region. On radio, on TV, and online. Good morning to our audience on KTN Home. You'll be with us from now until 9 o'clock. And we are also live streaming the show on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We begin each and every hour with the day's proverb. CT.
When a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful.
When a king has good counselors,
his reign is peaceful.
Okay. His reign is peaceful.
Yes.
Sour. So you keep firing your counselors to maintain the peace.
You keep firing some of your counselors.
Yeah, if they write letters publicly here saying, there's no peace in the court.
Since this is politics, I dare say there's a lot we do not know. There's a lot I don't know. Let me put it that way, okay? There's something that is certainly going on, and whatever it is that's going on, I cannot say I have a clear handle on it, that I fully understand it, but something is certainly going on. Because there are words back and forth being attributed to leaders and what they say. And as usual, there will be blame that is being directed at the leader of the official opposition, Raila Odinga. He's influencing the president. And there are those who will be advising the president saying, you are being ill-advised by your handshake buddy to sack your advisors, whereas he's telling you the truth about what is happening with the youth in your backyard. Our politicians, as I said, are predictable.
Okay.
They're very, very predictable because these are the same people who supported the president when he became president. So the question I keep asking is, what really changed?
The advisor changed. Now there's a chief advisor in the court and there's no peace.
That's the narrative, isn't it? So there was peace before this chief advisor came into being, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yet, within that same party of Jubilee, one could see discord long before any handshake was even thought of or even came into being. So, but political discourse, and as I said, predictable.
Let's cross over to Japan. Okay. Last week we had a conversation about, Kenyans seeking higher education in Japan. And we spoke with two people who were in Japan. One of them was Dr. Midori Diamond. She is a study abroad coordinator for Study in Japan Global Network, the regional office for Sub-Saharan Africa. She's also joining us today, but also with her is a student who has taken up an undergraduate course in Hokkaido University in Japan. He's a Kenyan student, Louis Tanjiro. Let's have them on board. Dr. Midori Daimon, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Habari za asubuhi.
Salama kabisa, and welcome back.
Karibu tena, asante.
So how do we say hello in Japanese? Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. Hi, konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Yes.
And you bow.
And you bow, okay?
Yes.
How low must I bow to show that
Yes.
I am really greeting you?
How long?
Should my head
like
reach my
2
knees, or
seconds,
should they just be
3
halfway?
seconds. Oh, mm, yeah. Any like deeply is fine, good.
Okay.
All right. So today we're going to discuss why Kenyans are choosing to study in Japan. And with you also joining us on the line is Louis Tanjiro, undergrad student at Hokkaido University. Louis, as well, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the line.
Thank you for having me.
So, are you in Japan or are you in Kenya, Louis?
Currently, I'm in Nairobi, in Kenya.
How long have you been studying at Hokkaido University?
For the past 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how did you know about this university and what it offered, and what did you have to do to be able to be admitted as a student in that university?
The Embassy of Japan in Kenya has normally every year has programs that encourage Kenyan students to attend, and universities from Japan send their lecturers and people like those to talk about their universities, and people encourage people to apply. So when I went there in 2019, there was one that really stuck out to me, which was Hokkaido University, which I ended up applying for, and there was a course on it in the university called the Modern Japanese Society Program, MJSP, and that's what I chose, and here we are now.
Okay. Now, is it a course that is taught in English, or have you had to learn the Japanese language?
It has kind of both, although there's the aspect of you have to learn Japanese language more so because of the society. That way you can understand what you're actually studying. To give you a context, like if somebody was studying Kenyan culture, it would be advised to brush up on your Swahili, because when you're out on the field, you'll have to interact with locals, and the lingua franca would be Swahili. So in the same case here, it goes the same.
It's a good example, though one could argue that the thing about Kenya is that even in the rural areas, there are very many people who are very, very well versed with the English language. But the point is made. And I think it's an advantage that one should take. You are in a country, learn their language, understand their culture more. Excellent thought.
Yeah.
This program that you're studying, you said it's Modern Japanese Society or Studies program?
Yeah.
This is Modern Japanese Studies Program. Sorry for disturbing.
That's all right.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, this is bachelor course. So at first 6 months, you will learn Japanese language, and then you will enter to the undergraduate course.
Okay.
So this is a 4.5-year course. So if you don't have any Japanese proficiency, but you can consider to enter. That is Modern Japanese Studies Program, MJSP, at Hokkaido University.
Okay, so Midori, then, I mean, this is a question for both of you, but from your point first, before Louis, why are you seeing Kenyans making this choice to come to these schools in Japan?
Oh, okay. Maybe later, the Tanjiro will explain how his background and his reasons. But generally, I think I can say that two points. One is like we have high level of science and technology as well as in medical fields. And then, as you see in Kenya also, there are many cars and electricity from Japan. So it's very common information to see that Japan is very giant technology giant country. So this impression can inspire people, Kenyans, to come to study in Japan. So engineering courses and also these days renewable energy, those issues is very popular to study in Japan. And also another thing is you can experience new culture in Japan. Since Japan is very far from Kenya and we are not westernized so much. So we are our own culture. It's very different from Kenyans. So the Kenyans will also enjoy different and new culture. And some Kenyans told us that they found efficiency in management of public resources and time in Japanese people, and also we have devotion to Japan, to our jobs. So they love so much our Japanese work ethics, and then they want to learn those ethics as well as their studies. I think these 2 points is very attractive
and for you, Lois,
for Kenyans.
Okay, and so for you, Lois, why did you make the decision? What would be the thing that made you decide, all right, I'm absolutely going to go with this, as opposed to staying here in Kenya and joining a university here?
Okay, for my case, it's a bit different because I've always been fascinated more on the culture aspect of Japan. So it had always been my goal. Like after I finished school, I wanted to know more about the Japanese culture. So it was just a matter of how do I get there once I'm done with school.
You want to be
so
a samurai.
Maybe I don't really fit the bill. But yes, samurai studies sounds interesting.
Midori-san, let me ask you this question. Do you have very many students or people who come to study in Japan, staying in Japan to work in Japan?
Actually, these days, yes, the number of those people who studied in Japan then start working in Japan is increasing. But still Africans, they are not so many. So we drive to them to inspire them also to work in Japan after graduation.
And why is it that not many people from Africa end up working in Japan?
Actually, what I'm thinking that most of Africans, they have background to go back to their own country and contribute their own countries. So there are many people expect them to go home immediately after graduation. So I think it's a bit difficult for them to work and stay so long in Japan. But yeah, that is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But I hope they after the graduation, if they can get good opportunities in Japan, I think they will get more good experience, working experience, and then they can contribute to their own country. I believe so.
I mean, do you only promote universities or do you also promote colleges where people can come and study diploma or higher diploma courses?
Okay, actually, we are encouraging people to study in universities and postgraduate schools, but we also have information about college, technical college, and also Japanese schools. So yeah, if Kenyans love to interest in those colleges or Japanese schools, we can also provide information.
One of the biggest challenges to higher education for a lot of people is the cost. And then for them to leave their home to go to a school internationally, it has a cost weight. Are there ways, even as many more Kenyans are making the selection of coming to Japan, are there ways that it becomes easier for them to fund their education in Japan? Scholarships, financial aid, things like this.
Okay, at first, I think the information, our Japanese universities' information are still very few, and so when they think about going to study abroad, it's still difficult to reach the proper information about Japanese universities, and also they have some images that our university is so costly, so they don't think that they are good opportunity for scholarship. Actually, I have to confess that the full covered Japanese scholarship is not so many cases, not so many opportunities, but still I can say that the university, Japanese university, they are searching for a good performance Africans, Kenyans students to welcome, and with those full covered scholarships. And also their universities have those tuition reduction financial assistance they have. So some Africans say that if they use those tuition reduction, that is very reasonable, even though it's cheaper than European or American universities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Louis, you already starting the studies here in Kenya, and you say that you're due to go to Japan to complete your studies. What is it that you're looking forward to seeing in Japan? Now, you say that you're really, really interested in the culture of Japan, and that's why you chose to study this, to take this particular one, the particular program, Modern Japanese Studies program. What do you hope to experience when you get to Japan?
Actually, I've been to Japan before, so this wouldn't be my first time. But the place where I'll be at in Hokkaido is totally different from where I was the first time I went. So Hokkaido is on the northern side of Japan, the biggest prefecture they have there, and it snows a lot. So I'm looking forward to a lot of skiing. Yeah.
What else? What else about the culture that, if you were to tell somebody else, I have really been fascinated by Japanese culture, and that's why I chose to go and study this particular program in Japan. What is it that attracted you about their cultures? I mean, you can just tell us some things that you had read, that you had watched, that you had experienced when you went to Japan and you thought, I want to learn more about their culture.
Okay.
Tell us about their culture.
Okay. What I like most when I'm there is the respect that people give to each other. Sometimes it's so the way the Japanese society is, it's so centered on think about other people first,
Right.
before you think about yourself. So that whole aspect, like you can give you an example. The way they collect trash. Normally here in Kenya, you just take your stuff, you put it in the dustbin, the trash guys will come and take it away.
Yeah.
But in Japan, this is just something I noticed. I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but you I'm sure you know about how they say put plastics and you put the rotten food on the side differently from the plastic, from the glass, all that. But what I found out is with plastics, most households in Japan, usually they will take the plastic containers and then they'll chop them up at home into smaller bits and then store those. That way, when the people who collect garbage come and pick the plastic, when it goes for recycling, the people who work in the factories don't have to waste time cutting up the plastic because it's already been done by people at home.
So part of the work has been done.
Yeah.
And this is not by any rule, any regulation by the government. It's just people's own initiative.
Yeah.
I see Midori-san is laughing at this. Why do you do this, Midori?
Uh, yes. Some cities and some parts of Japan. Yes, they are very seriously, and then they do at home to help to that is true what he said. Yeah, but that is not regulations or just voluntary. They do. Yeah.
Someone is asking me to ask you, Louis, do you plan on coming back to Kenya? Or do you want to go and study and work there for a bit?
I've always wanted to work in Japan.
Okay.
So I think I will be there for my goal is to be there for a longer time. But of course I can always come home. I don't want to say that I'll be the ones who go and never come back. But I think with what I'm trying to do in my career, I want to really bolster the relations between Japan and Kenya. But I think the best way for me to do it would be to do it from that side. So I think I'll be in Japan for a while.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
We asked this question the last time we spoke to you, Midori-san. Now, let me ask it again. From the time you began this initiative, how many Kenyan students have you had going to Japanese universities?
Oh, actually, it's a bit difficult to count because we are doing all countries to sub-Saharan Africa, so it's difficult to count those.
But there are many.
Now, it's increasing. There are many. Now, 150 Kenyans are studying in Japan. And that is second large number among the sub-Saharan Africa to go to study in Japan. Yeah, but I want more increase to that number.
You want more. You want more in terms of those who are going to come into the country to study.
Yes, and I can say that many Kenyans and Africans think that there are no Africans that side in Japan. Yeah, it seems to be not so many, but there are also African network, African student network. They are active there, so they are exchanging the information how to survive, how to live in Japan. They can get proper information from those networks. So you will not be alone. You will not be missing so much your country. Yeah.
And so just tell us, for Kenyans who would like to study in Japan, to see the kind of programs being offered by the various Japanese universities, how can they get this information? Is it by going to the embassy? Do you have a website where somebody can log on to and look through the programs and the universities?
Oh, okay, thank you very much for the inquiry. Yes, we have the website. So please, the Google search Study in Japan for Africa, or you can just put www.studyinjapan-africa.com. studyinjapan-africa.com. So if you visit our website, you will see the list of universities and undergraduate programs, also postgraduate programs offered in English or English-Japanese bilingual courses. You will see it.
And then the application process is also there on the website?
Yeah, and actually I have to say that the application process is differentiated from each university, but we will assist you as helper, as supporter. So if you get stuck, you can inquire us directly. There's email address also, or we have also SNS. Yeah, so please inquire us. Don't hesitate to contact us.
Once you maybe selected this and you have been admitted to the university, you go to the Japanese embassy in Nairobi in Upper Hill. Do you get a visa that allows you to study and work in Japan, or do you just get a study visa?
Yeah, actually at first you will get only study visa. So if you go with that admission letter of the Japanese university, and then they will easily to issue, but only study visa. But that visa will allow you to work some limited hours per week, so you can also work in Japan.
I see. So once again, you will say the website is www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Yes, that's right.
Midori San.
And actually, we have the webinar after this time,
Okay.
8 a.m. So please visit our website and then get the registration so that you will join our webinars. And then this webinar is about undergraduate course, but on science program, integrated science program. So if you have interest in physics, chemistry, and biology, please join us after just 30 minutes from 8 a.m. in Kenyan time.
Oh, great. There'll be a webinar coming up in half an hour. So log on to that website, www.studyinjapan-africa.com. You get registration and then you join the webinar and you'll be getting all the information about studying in Japan, especially in the sciences. Midori-san, thank you very much. Dr. Midori Daimon is the assistant professor, study abroad coordinator,
so
study in Japan, Global Network Project. Asante sana for speaking to us. Have a good afternoon in Japan.
Yeah. Asante sana.
And Louis Tanjiro, who is in Nairobi, Kenya, we wish you a good day as well as you continue to study at Hokkaido University.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate.
Asante.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Time for us to take a break at 26 minutes after 7. We are live on KTN Home, on Spice FM, and online. We'll be back shortly. When we come back, let's talk about flying within the country. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
This February, Sarit Your City brings you Seasons of Love. From the 4th to the 14th of February, explore and celebrate love at our new complex, where we shall have special activities for your loved ones and family, including a Valentine's Fair, Sana Art Display, couples photo booth, and love wheel. What's more, you can enjoy a variety of local and international retailers, restaurants, eateries, and entertainment facilities such as cinemas and a bowling alley for a fun and wholesome experience. Tune in to Spice Drive with Monique from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday for more information. Plus, the chance to win dinner vouchers.
Right, mostly cloudy in Nairobi. It's drizzling in some parts of the city at 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 today. Highs of 21 in Nyeri, 15. And light rain right now. Cloudy conditions in Nakuru, going to highs of 22. Eldoret, mostly cloudy at 14, going to highs of 23 today. 30 will be the high recorded in Kisumu today. Light rain at the moment at 21. It's mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 18, highs of 28 and lows of 17. We're looking at highs of 31 in Mombasa, where it's partly sunny at the moment. It's also partly sunny in Malindi at 26, going to highs of 31. 27 will be the high in Kampala. It's mostly sunny at 20. Sunny conditions also in Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees, highs of 31. Johannesburg, sunny at 17, highs of 25 today. We're looking at highs of 34 in Lagos. Light rain this morning at 27. It's cloudy now in Kinshasa, where it was sunny before, and a chance of rain later with highs of 30 and lows of 23.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Did you know that knowing your HIV status is simple? You can visit your nearest health center where you will be tested for free, or you can test yourself using the self-kits sold at chemists for 500 shillings only. If you test HIV positive, don't fear, because there is medication that will allow you to live your normal life. You will also be counseled on how to live with HIV and fulfill your life goals or dreams. Knowing your HIV status as a parent is beneficial for yourself and your loved ones. Expectant mothers with HIV, did you know it's possible to deliver a healthy, uninfected baby? Visit a health facility near you during your antenatal visits to get proper information, advice, and treatment for HIV. HIV treatment can improve your overall health and can protect an unborn baby from contracting HIV before, during delivery, and after birth. We must not exclude or discriminate against our HIV-positive counterparts because living with the virus is not a curse. Follow the Ministry of Health's instructions to protect ourselves from HIV and also to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Do you know your status? This message has been brought to you by the National AIDS Control Council.
All right,
Traffic.
so Gong Road looks terrible this morning. We have that strike by Matatus on Gong Road, and it's not looking pretty right now. So that one looks crazy as you then try to get down the further Gong Road out towards the city's mortuary roundabout. Coming off of Mombasa Road, heading towards the roundabout at Nyeri Stadium. That also is slowing down quite some as you get out though into the CBD and also outbound towards Westlands. Now, Westlands is what we need to be careful about today. If you don't need to be in that area, you can use an alternate route. Please do so, because there's been a diversion right at Kangemi. Just past the 87. Because of that diversion, some heavy traffic is going to be recorded and reported today, so you might want to stay away from that one. All right, Jogo Road heading towards the roundabout at the City Stadium and then onto Landis Road, still bumper to bumper in some parts getting into the CBD. Remember, we thought it would be open by now, but it's not. Likoni to Lunga industrial area, that's not happening, so use an alternate route as well. All right, Spice of MKE on Twitter, text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
28 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we're also live for 2 hours every weekday morning, 7 to 9 on KTN Home. We live stream the show on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. Your hosts every morning, Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and CT Muga. So for the next 30 minutes, let's talk about flying in the country, okay? So COVID-19 came. COVID-19 had very many adverse effects. Some industries basically had to shut down. So hospitality, shut down. Flying, shut down. Among those that were affected are Jambojet, the local carrier that's a subsidiary of Kenya Airways, and there was no flying within the country or even across the borders. And so they were impacted. And until the president announced the opening up of the airspaces again, and then the airline started flying. So let's find out how they've done since then. Jambojet starting to fly again, trying to get Kenyans to fly again across the country into various destinations. And joining us on the line now is Karanja Ndegwa. He is the managing director of Jambojet Limited. Good morning, Karanja.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Yes, thank you.
So we just got to get straight into it, Karanja. COVID came. You had to ground all your planes for a while. And then you were told, okay, start your engines. And you're getting back on air. But what kind of impact did those few months have on your business?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting period for us, given that between the 6th of April, when the shutdown was declared by the president, that was on the 6th of April, all the way to when it was reopened on the 15th of July. So basically, we couldn't fly out of Nairobi because our base is in Nairobi, and we had that was about 14 weeks of grounding. During this period, we had to maintain some costs. We had to maintain the aircraft. We had to quickly engage the staff, and generally there was loss of revenue. And we had to quickly ensure that how will we come back with all this COVID? What has changed? And we had to quickly find ways of how do we get to the new normal. How the customer that was coming back was different from the customer that was pre-COVID, because all of a sudden everyone was concerned about their health and well-being. So how we got prepared to receive the customer, as and when it opened, we had to bring in the Ministry of Health, whereby we had to engage them on the protocols that we have to put in place. So there were a number of changes, bringing KCA. KCA had to review our manuals to see to it, are we working in accordance with the Ministry of Health protocols as we fly? So there were those changes, and we had to make these changes. Here there were no revenues coming our way during that period. So basically it was tough. But one great thing that happened among the Jambo Jet staff is that we continued engaging. I think if there's a period that we engaged among ourselves as staff, it was during that period. And people gave out, people sacrificed, people on pay cuts, and we managed to get through that period. So definitely it was tough.
Bonandegwa, let me ask this question. Well, no, I'm trying to figure out which one to ask first. So let me ask this one first. When you say that you adhered to the standards that the Ministry of Health required of every other industry, including yours, social distancing, how did you address this particular issue in your airlines?
You see, for the airline, especially let me go specifically to the aircraft, because I know that's where the issues have been raised and it has mentioned. Even from IATA, it has been very clear that COVID is more or less like a communicable disease. And within the aircraft, we have the high efficiency particulate air filters, which shift every so often because of the communicable disease. Way before COVID, every three minutes, you find the air is quickly shifted and new air comes in. So that way, you find that you are safer in the aircraft than outside here. Because always there is that renewing of that fresh air and shifting of the current that is there. So with that, we also ensure that everyone is wearing a mask. For us, we are fortunate during this period because our longest flight is 1 hour, 20 minutes. So we adhere to make sure that everyone wears a mask. We ensure that the touch points are less. We open the bins for the customers. We make sure that families are seated next to each other. We make sure that even the onboarding and the offboarding now takes longer than normal because the way you board in groups just to make sure that it's not crowded. So definitely we are trying the very best to see to it that we adhere to these protocols, but also we had the advantage that the aircraft has the high efficiency particulate air filters.
So you're not going to have, because when we looked at obviously if you're making that comparison, when you looked at public transport in the matatus and such, everybody had to sit, one in a pair kind of thing. So because of this filtration of the air within the aircraft, then you can have folks sitting together as normal if they have their masks and such on.
Yes, they have to have their masks on. And we keep announcing all the protocols on board. One of the things that also we have been asked to stop is that we don't serve on board.
Right.
So there's no eating on board, and we will continue this way until the time that we are allowed to. And we also assess, even within ourselves, we assess and see what is it that we need to do when. So with that, with the clean air on board, that really helps and reduces any spread.
So obviously this entire situation made a significant dent in revenues for you, obviously.
Yeah.
So now going forward, So going forward, trying to get back that which was lost, and then also, putting yourself as an airline in a position whereby now you're earning well. What are some of the strategies that you are thinking of, or maybe that you would want to implement, to make sure that you have more people flying and, encouraging more people to fly at a cost that they can afford, but also now, keeping your revenues up there?
Thank you, Oko. And one of the things that we have seen within Jambo Jet is that during this period of engaging among ourselves, we have come up with a number of innovative ways because things are a bit different. You find the purchasing power is lower. The customer can only pay so much. The yields are far much lower than what we used to get pre-COVID. So you find the business traveler is still operating from home or from their offices. They're not moving up and about. That impacted the number of passengers, the number of passengers who are traveling. So what we have done is that we had to bring in a new route. We started the Mombasa, Kisumu, Mombasa, Eldoret route. This was to address the number of people who are traveling from the western side of this country to the coast. So, and they were all coming through Nairobi. So that was one of the ways we had to grow. It worked well. We do 4 times a week. The other thing that we had to do is that we had to assure the customer, because we have to keep assuring the customer how safe are we. So we have brought in something like a new product which we call Lipa Pole Pole. This allows the customer to make plans way in advance and pay in a flexible manner, in a flexible way that they can that they are comfortable. This way, you can make your bookings for the month of June, May, at this moment, but pay in bits that you're comfortable. That enables you to plan. And because you look at this moment for a family to travel, and you need to pay 50,000 shillings, what you may be having is 15 at the moment. So you're able to put the deposit and continue paying on a monthly basis till you meet the full 50,000. So this allows our domestic, because currently it's all about domestic travel. So we come up with these products to ensure that how do we pass this to our customers. The other ways that we are looking at is that we've started the charters. We are looking for charter opportunities, because we normally fly about 150 frequencies a week. As of now, we are doing about 120. When we started in the month of July, we were doing about 42. I remember that week we started with 42 frequencies. So the demand was quite low, but the demand has slowly been increasing to the point whereby we are currently at around 120. So we are not yet back to the 150, which would normally operate per week. So we have to look for other opportunities around, and one is charters. The other thing that we have done is that we have a program which we call the Now Travel Ready, whereby we are encouraging travel in the new normal. And what we do is that we have identified a number of partners that we can work with. Some of them are the counties, the hotels, and we showcase areas that you can visit. For example, last week we were in Mombasa, whereby we were showing the world, not only Kenya, but the world. As you travel to Mombasa, these are the areas that you can visit, because you find in most cases people get to their hotels, enjoy the beach, enjoy the hotel, enjoy 1 or 2 places, but there's so much that one can visit in Mombasa. So we were working with the county government of Mombasa just to showcase all the areas that people can visit, and also just trying to show even the public what has changed, so that as they come to travel, they get to know, they're not surprised by the changes that are in place due to COVID-19. So that's what we are doing. Not only marketing by Jumbo Jet, but also marketing destinations together with a number. Yes, and this has opened that line of partnerships. Pre-COVID, we used to market Jumbo Jet only. But now we realized pre-COVID you cannot continue doing it this way. So we have to get into partnership with quite a number of stakeholders that whom we share interests, and that is working well for us.
So the Ministry of Tourism has also told us previously that domestic tourism possibly could be a savior then when it comes to this. Do you see yourself being able to play, as Jambo Jet, being able to play a role in this? Because we're saying, all right, international tourists not coming, it doesn't mean that the situation has to go to the dogs. That there are 20 million Kenyans, perhaps, who could travel, whether it's for a weekend, for 2 weeks, whatever. Do you see yourself playing a role here whereby you have, airline tickets at maybe half the price, but you can increase the frequency and partnering with hotels across counties, for example, for them to go and see Kenya? Do you see this as something that could come about?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. What we are seeing is that for sure during this period, domestic travel is what is going to keep us going. And if you look at our prices are among the lowest ever. Because when you look at the purchasing power, it's still, and you fully understand. We fully understand that people are not able to pay as much as they used to pay before. So for us, we go for volumes, and to go for volumes, we have to give a better price. We have to give a lower price. We have to stimulate this market. We have to work closely with the hotels. And as you clearly indicated, domestic travel has to be the only way in the short term to keep us going. And we will continue marketing our destinations. Let me tell you, if you look at Eldoret and Kisumu, people hardly go on holidays to those destinations. But we have had a whole tour as Jambo Jet and working with a number of stakeholders there. And we are showing case where areas that people can visit. And there are quite a number of interesting places that I personally didn't know that I could visit. So that's what we are trying to pass. We are working with the Kenya Tourism Board, and they are really supporting this initiative to see to it how do we share Kenya and encourage Kenyans to visit Kenya.
Bwanandegwa, I want to ask, who owns Jambo Jet?
Jambo Jet is wholly owned by Kenya Airways, 100%.
I see.
Yeah, you sound surprised.
Well, not entirely. You see, it's got my mind working, and I'm thinking. So, if it's wholly owned by Kenya Airways, then it means that every problem that Kenya Airways has is likely to sort of like be passed on to Jambo Jet. But
yes, continue. Sorry.
No, please. There's something you wanted to say. Say it. I will not lose the thread of thought that I had in mind.
No, I'm just waiting for you to finish.
All right, then let me finish. Yeah. You see, yes. Kenya Airways has had financial problems galore, okay? Jambo Jet has had its problems. Now, the question I wanted to ask is there ever a time in the airline business that one can actually make money and put some aside for a rainy day? Is it possible?
Yeah, you're so right. In the airline industry, if you look at even worldwide, the number of airlines that make a profit, the profits are really, they are quite thin. So you find for us, out of the 6 years that we've operated, 3 years were profitable. And the years that we made the loss was the first year when we began. Then there was a 2017. During the election period, people were not traveling. Yep. So we really lost. The year 2017 was a loss making. And then 2020 definitely will be a loss making. But all the other 3 years were profitable. So we've had 3 years profit, 3 years loss. So we've had, and given that we are a new airline, we have had our good run. But as you indicate, we are still okay. Just to go back to the KQ, we are wholly owned by KQ, but it's at arm's length. we have our separate board, and we run Jumbo Jet. The model is totally different because the KQ is a legacy model, but for us is a low cost model with no frills, and you pay for what you use. That makes your traveling quite easy. And if you look at Jumbo Jet, when we started Jumbo Jet, our whole aspect was to make travel affordable. In the first year, 30% of the travelers had never entered an aircraft. So we made flying possible, and we demystified this whole aspect about traveling is for a certain class. That's what we keep following, and we are safe. We have a safe history. We are an IOSA member. That's the highest safety standard, and our operational standards. We are quite reliable. We leave on time. Of course, we had a history in 2016 where we had to come back and apologize because there was a time that we really messed our customers. And we also learned from that. And from that experience, we had to get new Q400. With new aircraft, we had to start working on that, just getting that history.
Clear the reputation. And just have the customer confidence. I think over this period, we have earned it back. And we will. That's something that I would say customer centricity is at the center of Jumbo Jet. We ensure that we are safe, we are reliable, we are leaving on time, we are affordable, we are, that customer experience, we want every customer to enjoy and to always remember. And whenever they think of flying, they think of Jumbo Jet. So we've had our rough time. We learned from that, and that's history. And what we hold that dearly. Once you've been there, you don't want to go back there again. So as Jumbo Jet, we are in our operations. We are totally, although we still report our books are consolidated with the Kenya Airways books, we are still at arm's length in terms of operations. There are things that we work together, like the ground. They do our handling, our ramp handling, but every other thing from the sales, all that is separate.
Okay, so as a budget airline, you operate from JKIA, I presume?
Yes, we operate from JKIA.
Okay.
That's our hub.
You have competitors who operate from Wilson.
Yes.
How do you fare against this competition?
When it comes to, because that's when it comes to the market, we are those are our main competitors, but our products are slightly different from each other because but closer. So for Jumbo Jet, we as a product, we have to continuously sell the safety, the affordability, the reliability, and that's who we are. And I know we have that competition from Wilson. We work with a few of them, but what happens is that their aircraft are smaller than the Jumbo Jet aircraft. So there are many areas that they go that we can't go, because for us we operate 6 new Q400s, de Havilland Q400s, which are 78 seaters. Yet for them, you find the aircraft that are there. The biggest is a 50-seater Bombardier 300. That's 300. That's the biggest, and the Embraer 145, the 50-seaters. But you find you have the 37, the 19-seaters. So you find for them, they are able to operate in smaller, shorter aerodromes, but which we cannot. And they have also their space. They also go to the Mara, quite a number of them, places that we can't go. But for us, it's mainly to Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, Malindi, and Ukunda, and then Nairobi as our hub.
Karanja Ndegwa, Managing Director, Jumbo Jet. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we are excited to hear about this kind of new innovative ways in which you're bringing the flying back and making it normal as possible.
Thank you very much, and I'm honored to join you today.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you.
We hope to have you in the studio soon.
Thank you.
Time for us to take a break on KTN Home. 5 minutes to 8 o'clock. This conversations continue. You'll be back shortly. We are live on KTN Home, on Spice FM and online.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
Okay,
right.
4 minutes to
94.4 Spice FM.
With Karanja Ndegwa. So Jumbo Jet back coming out of that slump, looking at innovative ways of doing things, working now with the county government, introducing these new direct routes. You don't need to come through Nairobi. If you want to go from Mombasa to Kisumu, you just fly straight. Mombasa to Eldoret, fly straight. And then also now promoting destinations, working with the ministry, with Kenya Tourism Board, promoting destinations. Good thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's what needed to happen a long time ago. It's good that it's one of the things that you say is a good thing that COVID actually then brought out. I mean, I've always said that, look, I think the greatest treasure in terms of what you're able to do for tourism rests domestically. There's so many parts of this country that Kenyans have not seen. And here's an opportunity for them to travel within a very short period of time and making it affordable. And more, as it becomes more affordable, you'll find more people getting to know what the country really has on offer. And again, I mean, it's sad that it's people who come from outside the borders of this country are the ones who come and tell Kenyans what the other side of the country looks like,
Yep.
And so I think this is an opportunity to do that. And it is my hope that it continues and it doesn't stop at some point or stall, and they can actually go and continue to discover what partnerships will actually allow you to do. And that's what partnerships let you do. You're an airline, but here you are helping Kenyans discover Kenya.
Work with the destinations. Work with the county. The county governments have tourism departments.
They do.
Yes.
They even have tourism CSs.
Yes. An entire ministry of tourism.
CES, rather. Yes.
CC. Yes, the entire Ministry of Tourism in a county. Then you have the entire Kenya Tourism Board. You have got just apart from Jumbo Jet, Kenya Airways and all the other airlines flying domestically, and all the other travel companies taking people across the country. If you can imagine, if there was a one whole ecosystem of just, if you're promoting destinations, this is how you're promoting destinations. You want to know very many other places that you can visit in this country, apart from just going to the beach on one part of the country. You can go to visit other beaches in other parts of the country as well. Very, very interesting conversation, and we wish Jumbo Jet all the best. In the next hour, we're going to have a conversation about these evictions in the country. So there's a statement here by the Kenya Railways that they're saying, yes, we acknowledge that there has been issues with the evictions. People are feeling like the evictions have been inhumane, being carried out in parts of Nyanza, Rift Valley and Western regions. We have started this exercise in 2019. It's being done in good faith to provide a safe corridor for railway operations, and that necessary arrangements through various channels have been made to allow the affected persons time and space to have their concerns heard and to seek alternative spaces to live or work. Now, that is what they say. In the next hour, we'll be going to the ground to find out whether the ground is feeling this statement by Kenya Railways and to understand what has been happening. We have seen the demolitions that have taken place in some estates in Kisumu. We'll be speaking to some of the affected communities, as well as Amnesty International Kenya, whose Executive Director, Irungu Houghton, will be joining us. We will hear what they have been going through. Lots of cries. People have been rendered homeless. Businesses shuttered. It's big. And whether they actually now knew that this was the day that is going to happen. When an eviction happens in the middle of the night, what do you say about that? Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now 8 o'clock.
spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, guys. The
Traffic.
situation on Gong Road is that traffic is not moving because of the strike that we see by matatus this morning because of the entrance of a new matatu. So if you're wondering why, that's the reason why. New guys on the block and the old ones say we don't want them. And this is halting movement on Gong Road today. So there's a lot of foot traffic as people try to make their way out to where they're going. All right, let's look at Mombasa Road, going out into the city, slow in some parts, opening up right around General Motors and then closing a little bit around Bellevue as you're then approaching the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. It slows down some. Coming off Jogo Road and heading into the city, also slow. Lunga Lunga to Likoni, rather, to Lunga Lunga, not happening this morning because that road is still closed because of construction, so it's going to take you some time to get out of that one as well. Coming off Figure Road into the CBD, getting to Ngara, it will slow down right as you approach the Globe Cinema overpass. Wangari Maathai Road is open, can be used. The eastern and southern bypasses also open, can be used today. Should be able to ease the traffic situation. Let's keep taking a look and see how that opens up as we are in the middle of traffic hour right now. Spice FMKE, not to forget, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Text us 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for joining us. We're now into the third hour of the show. We start the show every weekday morning, 6 a.m. up to 10 a.m. We are live on KTN Home for 2 hours, and this is that second hour of our KTN Home stream. And then we are also online, Spice FMKE on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. And our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. City, let's begin with the day's proverb.
When a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful.
When a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful.
Imagine if he has horrible, terrible counselors.
It'd be a different kind of reign.
Completely, yeah?
Well, among the things that the reign will be, it might be short.
Yeah.
Or heavy and tumultuous.
And yesterday's proverb was, when there is peace, the king has no need for a shield.
No, doesn't need one.
Okay.
But we refer to the king as the chief there.
Chief then, eh?
Now we're referring to them as a king.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So stuff has happened in the country. Kenya Railways is reclaiming its land, okay, in several parts of the country. Traders, especially in Nakuru, in Kisumu, have faced the wrath. So, what has happened? Let's just start with this story. Page 12 and 13 of the Standard. Loangi Beach in Kisumu became the first victims of the demolitions in which at least 20 eateries were brought down. Then we also saw traders secured spaces at Dunga Beach, about 5 kilometers away. We have seen other estates that have been affected. Demolitions in Makasembo Estate in Kisumu town. We have seen demolitions in Kamau Way in Nakuru town, where buildings, and these look like old estates, have been demolished. In Kibos, which is also in Kisumu County, demolitions happened from last Friday, and this has affected over 3,000 people in this particular area. Among the stories that are covered in the Standard today is about elders who are condemning the demolition of a historical mosque. This mosque is over 100 years old, one of the structures that was brought down by Kenya Railways last Friday to pave way for the renovation of the Nakuru-Kisumu railway line. One of the people who worked at this mosque is 64-year-old Khalifa Hamis, who has not conducted Salah at this mosque for quite a while. He's one of the elders of this mosque. He says, we have been here for a while. Our children come here from madrasa community. This started as a small mosque. It has become bigger over time as, the population increased, and as the population grew, now we saw the members of the Nubian community were the biggest casualties of the demolitions. 3,000 people affected, and have since been living in tents provided by the Kenya Red Cross about 600 meters from their demolished homes. Not structures, not at the roadside. This is where they have lived for many, many years. So when you see this happening, and now Kenya Railways tweeted a statement yesterday saying the land reclamation being carried out in parts of Nyanza, Rift Valley and Western is being done in good faith to provide a safe corridor for railway operations. It says prior to the exercise, which started in 2019, necessary engagement through various channels had been done to allow the affected persons time and space to have their concerns heard and for them to seek alternative places to live or work. Safety is our priority, according to Kenya Railways. As a provider of transport solutions, we move different types of goods along our network, including dangerous cargo, and therefore we need to secure a safe corridor for operations to protect lives and secure goods while in transit. The state agency said the demolition is for the benefit and for the prosperity of Kenyans.
Which Kenyans exactly? Because
you and I,
from what we have read, what has actually happened with the demolition is the complete opposite of what they claim to be sponsoring and putting across.
Yeah.
And anyway, there are details as to whether they gave adequate notice, whether they informed the community. But the thing that comes to mind, 100-year-old mosque, almost as old as the city itself, the city of Kisumu. So which came first, the railway or the mosque? Now, we know the railway reached Kisumu in 1902.
It was the founder of the town.
Yes. So, which means that mosque came there not very long after.
Almost as old as the city itself.
Yes, exactly.
And for all these years, they have been there. They
even when we had a railway that was plying that route for the longest time, that mosque has been there. This thing that has changed, what exactly is it? And when you're talking about people encroaching on railway land, did they just encroach on one specific day and suddenly there was space and then suddenly they had encroached? It did not happen over a period of time. Now, what on earth was Kenya Railway doing when all this was happening?
And there's also the bigger story of when you say that you've had, constructive engagement, necessary engagement through various channels since 2019. We're in 2021. I'm sure Kenya Railways could come even here with records and show we had engagements here and there and at this point, and we agreed with the community this is what's going to happen. Did you actually have a conversation about what happens to the mosque?
It would be good to actually have someone from the railway answering those questions. But if you're going to take that discussion, we have estates in Nairobi here. One of them is Golden Estate.
Yeah.
Okay? In the direction where you see my hand is pointing. It was railway land. Okay? So why was that not reclaimed? There's a lot of railway land in major cities in this major towns in this country. All right? The question that one has to ask, and I'm asking it, what railway land are you reclaiming? Are there specific lands? Are there specific lands with proximity to the actually rail itself or the railway line? Or is it general railway land? What are the details of this land that you're reclaiming? There is a part of the railway properties in Nairobi that formed the go-downs that they had. It's not far from where the original railway station, Nairobi railway station was. Okay? There has been the to and fro discussions around it. What am I saying? If you were to honestly and genuinely look at what constitutes railway property in this country, the railway was one of the biggest landowners in this country. Biggest. So, which lands are we speaking of?
For now, we are looking at where the rail actually passes, and we want to secure that for safety of everybody and the goods being transported. Anyway, let's bring in Irongo Houghton, the Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya, who has been engaging with the residents of Kibos who have been affected by these demolitions. And we'll also be speaking to one of the residents, the Kibos community representative. Her name is Fatuma Bilali. Let's start with Irongo. Good morning, Irongo.
Good morning, Spice team.
Happy New Year to
I'm
you.
Here in Kisumu. Happy New Year. Unfortunately, not so happy for the people of Kibos.
No.
Obviously.
True.
A lot has happened there. Just paint for us the picture of what you've been on the ground for a while. You've seen the demolitions. You've seen the impact that this has had on the community itself. Just tell us what's happening there.
So Amnesty International dispatched a team to Kisumu, and we're camped here for the week. We spent the whole day yesterday in Kibos. It is really a desperate situation. I think the Kisumu governor has called it a human settlement disaster. Let me just try and create it in terms of an image for the listeners. It's 3,500 people in an area of about 10 or so acres. Had their homes demolished really over 6 hours. The demolition started at 10:30, so 30 minutes after curfew. Armed officers arrived in the community. They were about 50 in number. They came in lorries and in Land Rovers, and they proceeded over the next 6 hours to destroy, in some cases, 13 years of investment by some of the residents. I've talked to people who left the country 13 years ago, essentially worked in the UAE, trying to build up some savings. They came back, they built a home for themselves and for their relatives or their siblings, and they watched that 13-year investment be destroyed in six hours. I've talked to people over the age of 80 who are stunned. I mean, one of the things that I never get used to as a director of Amnesty is really just seeing people's eyes being so vacant. They have lost hope, displaced in their own country. And let me just describe the homes. These are not mud houses. These are permanent structures. Some of them have 3 to 4 rooms. There was the 2 nurseries that were established by the county government. These houses had electricity. They had water connected by the water companies. So these were very much legitimate communities. We're talking about a community that has been here since 1938. This is not the first time this community, and it's important that the identity of the community also be shared, which is this is largely a Nubian community. This is a community of essentially people who were in the army, they were police officers, they were administrators during the colonial period, and the first place that they were given to settle is now the current site of the Kisumu airport. So in 1938, they were moved from that space to Kibos, where they have been up to date. And one of the questions that we have to ask is why was this violence visited on this community with no real strategy for resettlement prior to the mass forced eviction of Kibos?
Irungu, if I may ask, this land that they have been living in, do they have a legal status? Do they have title deeds?
No, it seems that they were settled without the provision of legal title. So although they have been there for 83 years, which is really kind of almost that's almost like 3 generations of this community, there is no legal title as far as we know. But the 2 human rights organizations, Haki Jamii and Haki Africa, have gone to court to basically focus on the legal ownership of the land. And sadly, it looks like the Ministry of Interior moved to preempt conservatory orders that were expected by a court this morning. And the community and Amnesty and other human rights organizations like Haki Africa will be in court this morning. But sadly, we will be talking about rubble and mabatis that have been burnt, and this tragic case. Yes, I mean they threw tear gas, no less than 10 tear gas canisters to disperse people over that night. Last night it was raining very hard. I slept in a room, and I just really felt for this community. I can't believe that people would be left out in the rain when less than a week ago they were sitting in their own homes.
The humanitarian aspect we can't ignore, Irungu. I mean, that clearly we have, like you said, people who slept in their homes a week ago and then now are sleeping outside. Look at, issues of young children and such. So did it... I mean, we've talked about the fact that in terms of legality of documentation, they did not have. But was this the way to go about it? If for some minute we can even look at the other side of it, would this have been the only way? We hear about engagements that they would have had on the side of Kenya Railways or on other government agencies. Would this have been the only way that they could have moved people from this land?
No, I mean, internationally, there are standards for resettling people during an eviction. And, the community of Kibos, even in their trauma and their pain, will argue that, infrastructural development is important. But unfortunately, this infrastructural investment has landed on their head. In fact, in the case of one child, one minor who we are trying to locate, that minor died as their home collapsed over their head. So there is one fatality killed by this operation. And I think the question we have to ask is, why weren't, for example, the guidelines that have been developed as far back as 2009, the eviction and resettlement guidelines, why weren't those followed? But even if we, didn't expect that of the Ministry of Transport or Transport Ministry, I think the question is, there are three very basic things that you do in terms of a relocation. The first is that you have to give adequate notice. The second is that the process of eviction has to be guided by a court order. Thirdly, it should not happen at night, which this did. It should not happen in inclement weather. There has to be provisions for young people, children, people with disabilities. I saw at least 3 people with disabilities yesterday as we walked through the rubble of this community, where this community used to be. And there has to be, provision for, I guess, places that have important sacred quality. This 83-year-old mosque that has been destroyed, it's just a tragedy. And I think I looked across from the mosque and I could see a church on the other side, outside of this zone, that was not touched, but it is even closer to the railway line. So this community is asking, were we targeted? Are we second-class citizens as Nubians? And unfortunately, I think this buck stopped at the door of the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Fred Matiang'i, and I think it also stopped at the doorstep of the Transport Cabinet Secretary, James Macharia. Both of them have to explain to the nation whether this was approved by Cabinet, or rather the County Commissioner and the Kenya Railways Managing Director acted without direction. And I remind the country that there was a moratorium issued on all evictions during COVID-19. That was on the 11th of May, 2020. And that was issued by the Interior Cabinet Secretary himself.
Should we find that they did, Irungu, should we find that they did act out of turn? With all these other things that you've put out here, the moratorium that you speak of, which we all saw come into effect, should we find that they acted out of turn, what could it mean for these folks now who are living through this tragedy?
I'll respond to that, Duko. Just, I think it's also good to bring in Fatuma, who is here. She's very much, I call her a historian of the community. She knows the community very intimately. But I think that are required. The first is essentially that the land that they have been moved to, courtesy of the county government of Kisumu, it is important to establish the land title for that property, so that if they are going to be moved there permanently, that the land be titled and given to the community as a community title, so that they are no longer this temporary community that can be displaced whenever we want to bring in a railway or an airport or a road. And then the second thing I think that's important would be to ensure that there is compensation for people. The amount of damage to people's homes is ridiculous. I sat in the rubble of a sitting room yesterday of a gentleman by the name of Abdul Mohammed, who, again, had worked in UAE for 13 years to build his house. And he told me that he would have loved to invite me to sit with him and have a cup of tea. But now we were just sitting on rubble. So compensation is the second demand. The third one really is that we have to see accountability for this. We need the cabinet secretaries to tell us who is responsible for the action that was taken on Friday night. It was during COVID-19, it was during a curfew, it was taken at night, and there were no provisions for protection, and one child has been killed in this operation. So we need to see disciplinary action of the officers that were involved in this, or an acceptance that actually this is the necessary way of doing infrastructure development, that people have to die and their homes have to be destroyed in order for us to progress or be a modern nation. But as Amnesty International, I think we're just shocked and horrified by this. and we hope that the National Assembly take action to hold the executive accountable.
Did you say National Assembly?
I said the National Assembly because we are
Of
still
which country, Rungu?
This one, unless it has been dissolved.
No, it's alive and well, but it's what you're seeking and hoping it will do to censure the executive, our parliament. Okay,
Yeah, I have no hope.
this I wait to see.
I have no hope. I have a demand that is a legitimate public demand on people we elect to protect us. There is no point having a National Assembly if it cannot protect people from mass forced eviction.
The one thing they've been doing consistently for the longest time now is doing precisely that, not protecting the citizenry. So, anyway, one should always hope, Irungu. One should always hope.
Never give up hope.
No, we shouldn't give up hope.
Kenya Railways has issued a statement this morning, and they even tweeted yesterday, and they said that they've been engaging with the community. So let's bring in one of the community representatives from here, Fatuma Bilali. Asante sana kwa kuzungumza nazi, Fatuma. Habari ya leo?
Nzuri sana, habari yako?
Salama kabisa. Sasa Kenya Railways wanasema kwamba tangu mwaka wa 2019, miaka miwili iliyopita, wamekuwa wakizungumza na jamii ambazo wangetaka ziondoke, na wamesema wamekuwa kuambia haya, tutakuja kubomoa siku fulani, muondoke, na wakajadiliana na nyinyi vile mtahama. Ni ukweli ama ni uongo?
Ni urongo. Nakumbuka vizuri 2019 Januari walikuja tu peke yao, wakaenda tu kwa village elder peke yake, wakaenda around kwa along our boundary without the community knowing anything which is happening within the community. Wakamaliza kwenda around, alafu wakashika njia yao wakaenda. By then we asked our village elder what is happening, but he didn't tell us. He just said that the Kenya Railway want to mark their boundary. Na ukiona boundary hiyo ni mbali sana na mali yetu, because our boundary according to the map, the former British map, the land of railway is the number is 654 LR, alafu yetu Nubian is 655 LR. So there's a boundary between Nubian and the railway line. So we failed to understand. On 2019 when they came again, they went on and gave notice to business people along their boundary. But to Nubian community, they didn't give any notice at all. So we were wondering, just ask, how comes that the Kenya Railway is now evicting us without any notice?
So Fatuma, since this happened on Friday, and now people are homeless, all this other drama happening, has anyone spoken to you from Kenya Railways, from government, from Ministry Transport, Ministry Interior? Has anybody spoken to the community to even acknowledge what has happened?
No, because on Friday it was around 5 when they came, and the same day they came and put X the mark for the whole structure within the community. They marked all the houses for demolition. When the community also came up asking them, why are they marking the houses? Because our houses is very far from the railway line. So the county commissioner was the one with the security officer, and she was given a court order, and she refused even to take the court order. The person who took the court order was the DC from Moroni. And after then, at night at around 10:30, again they came with many security officers to start demolition. And the tear gas, even the tear gas affected children and children, plus old mothers. So it was a very difficult night, and the electricity was put off. There's no way majority of us can even find how they can move the properties out of the house.
Let's take a break at this point and then we continue this conversation. We are speaking with Fatuma Bilali. She is the Kibos community representative. The Kibos area has been demolished by Kenya Railways since Friday. Well, the demolitions happened on Friday, and it affected members specifically of the Nubian community who've been living here since 1938. And we are also having a conversation with Irungu Houghton, the Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya, whose organization has been on the ground last couple of days, working with the community, seeing how they can help them seek justice, but also, first of all, addressing the immediate humanitarian concerns. We are live on KTN Home, we are live on Spice FM, and we are also live online at 25 minutes after 8. Let's see the weather and the traffic, and then come back to continue the conversation. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Living with HIV is not a death sentence. Thanks to advances in medicine, HIV is now a manageable illness, with patients able to lead normal lives and raise families as they achieve their goals and their dreams. Tune in to the Spice Drive with me, Monique, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday as we talk about HIV, why it's important to know your status, ways to protect yourself, how you can get tested, and how testing positive should not stop you from living a normal life. Courtesy of the National AIDS Control Council, NACC.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Thank you. The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the weather with Spice FM.
Right, Nairobi, cloudy conditions in some parts. The sun is peeking through some of those clouds. 17 degrees, highs of 23 today. Highs of 21 in Nyeri. Light rain now at 15. Highs of 22 in Nakuru. Cloudy conditions at 17 degrees. Mostly cloudy in Eldoret at 15. Going to highs of 23. We'll see highs of 30 in Kisumu, where it's sunny at 22. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 20. Highs of 28 and lows of 17. Highs will be recorded at 31 in Mombasa today. Mostly cloudy conditions at the moment at 26. It'll come down to a low of 26 in Malindi, where it's going to go to a high of 31. It's mostly cloudy for now. Sunny conditions in Kampala at 19 degrees, going to highs of 27 and lows of 20. And it's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees, going to highs of 31. Johannesburg will record highs of 25 today. It's mostly cloudy at 17. Clear conditions in Lagos now at 27. Now the rain has stopped, going to highs of 34. And it's sunny in Kinshasa at 23. 30 will be the high, not going down lower than 23.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
So we do see some traffic on Mombasa Road still getting to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Uhuru Highway is one we're going to have to contend with today, folks. All the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout into the CBD, outbound to Westlands. And then in Westlands, going towards Kangemi, we know that there's been that diversion. So it's causing some heavy traffic. Folks using the roundabout way of Kikuyu and then having to go via James Gishuru to get around to where they are going. The Red Hill bypass, however, can be used. That's not too much of an issue there. But just to remember, that diversion is going to be there for most of today, hopefully away by tomorrow, but we're going to have to wait see. So looking at other parts of the city rather, coming off from Gong Road is still very slow today. Traffic, and in some cases none at all, because of the strike we see by matatus. Okay, so let's do the best with what we can, and those are the bypasses, Southern and Eastern. Use that. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 29 minutes after 8. The conversation continues right here on Spice FM. We're also live on KTN Home, and we're live streaming the show online. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.com. www.spicefm.co.ke. Joining us on the line this morning from Kisumu is Irongo Houghton. He is the Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya, and we're also joined by a community representative of the Nubian community in Kibos, Fatuma Bilali. We are talking about the demolitions being conducted by Kenya Railways around the country in parts of Rift Valley, in parts of Nyanza as well. What has happened so far is that we've seen a number of demolitions in Nakuru, in Kisumu, and this one particularly in Kisumu but in Kibos, which has affected this community. About 3,000 people who've lived here for so many years, since 1938. Fatuma, just coming back to you and the background that were initially given by Irongo on how long this community has lived in on this particular piece of land. Since 1938, have there been any talks or conversations with community leaders and the government on you getting title or actual ownership or recognition to be the occupants of this particular land? From whatever, from even the independence government, the Moi administration, Kibaki administration, Uhuru?
Yes, because since 1938 we have been living in peace with Kenya Railway Authority. And when our fathers died, they didn't try to make a follow-up of acquiring title deed. But it was 2011 when we felt that it is not safe for us to stay in an area without having any ownership of land. We started the process of acquiring title deed. In fact, we have all the documents. The demarcation was done because our land was 109 acres, which we were given by colonial government. Part of the land was taken by KARI, which is Kenya Research Institute. It is 92 acres. But the current acreage which we are living is only 17 acres. Not even 17, it is 14. Because part of it also was taken by individual government. After that, we started the process and we included National Land Commissioner. We did everything. Our plan was passed by Minister Ngilu by then on 2015, and it was approved. And even it was put to Kenya Gazette notice for 3 months for anybody who has a claim. But there was nobody who came up with a complaint of the land. So we were waiting for title deed to be given for the community up to now. Fortunately, we heard that Kenya Railway is claiming that the land belongs to them. And when 2 officers of the Kenya Railway, in fact, not even 2 officers, last year on July 31st, they came. They didn't have even a public participation meeting. Yes, they just went around and said that those who live within their boundary to leave. I asked one of the railway officers, because we have our boundary, Nubian community and Kenya Railway community. One of them told me that they will just focus on their boundary. They will not reach our area. So on January, we failed to understand. They came, they said that they will take the whole land of Nubian community. When we asked them how, because their boundary is there, they said that they will come with a map. Even we have the map which shows a proper boundary. When they came, there is a map, but the map which they are showing us does not show the actual map we have. There's a map which shows our boundary, but when they come with the map, that map does not show the accurate place of Kenya Railway. So we have all documents which we started with acquiring the title deed. All documents we have. And again, if the letters which we were given by British government, we have all documents with us. That can prove our land is not for Kenya Railway land.
Fatuma, when you went through these processes with the Ministry of Lands, Did they ever give you an allotment letter? Any letter stating that this land was actually now being allocated to you?
Yeah, we have. Even when the Kenya Railway came and started threatening us, we went and met with the National Land Commissioner, which they said that they will write a letter to headquarters Nairobi for them to come together with the Kenya Railway and have a dialogue meeting for them to come at the ground to see where the boundary of the Kenya Railway and Nigerian community is. But they were supposed to give us an allotment letter, but we are not yet being given. Yeah.
Okay, so the county government of Kisumu has stepped in, has given temporary a place to stay now. Is that an option to say, I mean, I hear you saying that we want to hold on to the land that we have been given. The structures that have been put on that place have been destroyed. Now, if county government of Kisumu has stepped in and said, all right, for now, have this, despite the pain and all of this difficulty right now, is it an option? And then to start pursuing ownership and to say, give us something permanent, even if we have to move away from here. Is that an option? Or are we saying that no, that which we were allotted before, we must stay with that?
Yes, what we want our land which we are staying in. We are asking the government to give us the ownership of our land. And what we were wondering, because the county commissioner, when we met the county commissioner, Madam Josephine, she told us that she's not aware of anything with the Kenya Railway. Let us just focus on our land where we are living, and let Kenya Railway continue with their project within their land. But we failed to understand how the county commissioner came and even distract our structures and our business areas.
I find this really very confusing because why now? I mean, if Kalro, Kari is now called Kalro, if they're neighbors, and I'm sure there are other neighbors around there, okay? And if there's an LR number, a land record number, it follows there for that the issue of a title deed shouldn't even exist. Meaning, the process is what may have delayed, but from what Fatuma tells us, they have gone through processes of ensuring that they get this title allocated to them. Now, with all those processes, how then does one come about and demolish a property without taking into consideration everything else that has actually been there in place?
The conversations, the steps that have been taken, even for those steps to take so long, we're talking about since independence.
Yes.
This community has been going to talk to the government saying, all right, so you moved us from this land, which was about 109 acres before. Now you've put up an airport there, you've put up a research institute there, you've moved us to this particular piece of land.
Us, yes.
It's 14 acres. Now, can you regularize this particular piece of land? This community has been going to the government on that. The formation of the National Land Commission with the new constitution 2010, and they've even engaged the National Land Commission. They say we are doing a report and taking the report to the headquarters. And then if a community is not getting the feedback that it deserves to get from the government, the next thing you're hearing is people who are coming with a different map and saying, according to our map, this is our land.
The thing was, in the Kenya Gazette, the requisite period during which one was supposed to raise an objection, no objection was raised.
Yes.
So, that time lapsed. So it moves on to the next stage. And then, after all that, somebody then determines that they should actually now just occupy the land. The question I'm asking is, forget what? Why does somebody want this land? Because it is clear in my mind that there are people who want this land. And damn the people who actually occupy this land.
People here is people other than Kenya Railways.
Kenya Railways is a front. I asked the question, if Kenya Railway is genuinely focusing on getting land that it belongs to it, okay? They're saying along the railway lines, Kenya Railway for the longest time was a national asset, okay? So anything that Kenya Railway has owned in terms of land, why don't we just talk about this thing wholesomely and say, okay, what did Kenya Railway land? What was Kenya Railway land and property in this country? Let's talk about where did that land go to? Who owns it now? What is it being used for? You want to have that discussion? This is a discussion you should
And
have.
again, I want to add something.
Please.
Okay, I want to add something because when we were reallocated in another land, that land does not belong to county government. The land belongs to individuals. Even yesterday at night, it rained. We couldn't sleep. Children couldn't sleep. The area is flooded. It is watery. As young children today, some yesterday went to school and today they couldn't even go to school. There is no way. Old mamas are crying. So we don't know how we can live in that place because when the county government came just one day, up to now, the county government cannot be seen. We are really suffering. Even some of the children today, this morning, some of them are sick. Even an old mama, there's a neighbor who is going to help that old mama with even a room where she can sleep because we couldn't even sleep. The area, the mattress which we were given, all is water. Even the blanket, even the tent which we were given by Red Cross. In fact, Red Cross really helped us through tent, through food. They really
Fatuma,
assisted.
how many are you in total? The number of people who've been displaced, including children?
The number of people who are displaced is many because the total is 3,500. But now some went to they were tenants. Some of them went even outside to find where they can live. And all the people, the Nubian community are just in the tent. We are many. Even some children were taken somewhere else where it can be safe with their life. We are in a really bad situation. Even I just request.
Yeah, Fatima, just a question coming back to you. But Irungo, just looking at now in terms of mechanics, what absolutely now needs to happen? Because we're looking at a situation, again, humanitarian crisis, potential of other, terrible things happening as a result of this, where we have a large number of people living in a place where so many things will not work, from care to food to, water, etc., etc. At the same time, in terms of immediate interventions, what needs to happen now? And who needs to sit up and pay attention?
I think there are, thanks, Luca. I think there are four things that need to happen immediately. The first one, obviously, is a humanitarian response. I'd like to acknowledge the Kenya Red Cross that came in to support this community. They put up tents for some of the community to be able to survive. So there is shelter, there is protection, water, and food. So I think that humanitarian response needs to continue. The county government of Kisumu needs to establish that they do have full control over the land that the community has been assigned and move to quickly giving them either, as you say, allotment letters or registering this land in the community's name so that we do not see this community displaced a third time within living memory. The third thing that needs to happen is that there needs to be an investigation, an inquiry into how this has happened, because I think it is not just this community that faces that has experienced an eviction, but there will be others as the SDR is expanded, and I think places like Kibra, anywhere along the line that the SDR is going, where there is dense community, there is densification and communities, they are at risk. And just to be clear, there are several locations. I think we said this at the beginning of the top of the hour. There are several locations in Kisumu alone, including markets and settlements where people have been displaced en masse. And I think we need to have this managed in a more humane and a human rights manner. And again, just to emphasize, there is absolutely no reason for people to be evicted at night. In fact, it is only thieves that come at night to steal from others. It is not a legitimately elected government. And I think the government needs to restock and think through how it manages resettlement of communities in order to make way for investment, whether it be roads or railways. So I think this would be the fourth area. The fifth area, I think, is accountability. I mean, somebody has to be responsible for what happened. It cannot be one of these things that just happened and we all continued as normal. And just to mention, and it's a bit sarcastic, but I think 6 senators were displaced over the weekend, and there was more media coverage, more public discussion, more political interest, even within the National Assembly, with regards to those 6 senators that were displaced, and not the 3,500 people who are now homeless and are out in the cold. So I think accountability is a critical thing. There has to be a conversation of compensation. This community has to be compensated for the investment that they had made. It was private property. Many of them will not be able to recover from this investment. And again, I walked through the entire community, the whole of yesterday afternoon, and all I could see was these blank stares, almost, Kenyans who have been emotionally displaced.
Yeah.
And for the Nubian community, this is even worse, because there's been a history of Nubian community not being treated as full citizens, not given identity documents. Fortunately, in the case of this community, we established that many of them do have identity documents. But, the historical trauma of being a ethnic minority in this country makes this even more tragic.
Is there any merit to the argument that it's beyond just development of a railway line? Is there any merit that this community of people could be targeted over time? I mean, you talk about this being, it could be the 3rd time in living memory of some of these, of an unfortunate situation for some of these people. Is there any merit to that argument?
Only an independent investigation would establish this. I mean, we know from the Truth Reconciliation Commission that there are minorities in this country that have been targeted historically, maybe not by specific individuals, not even specific administrations, but the cumulative weight of history has been negative for these communities. And I think the Nubian community is one of those. I mean, we've established, beyond reasonable doubt that these are not land grabbers. These are not people who stepped onto railway lands or even public lands to grab it for private interest. These are community residents who have been here for, as we say, 83 years. That is not a short period of time. And I think, there needs to be more investigation in terms of the allegations that the Kenya Railways are making. And we need to look at these 2 maps. And I have not seen the 2 maps, but I'm hoping that I will see them in court today. But that essentially that the boundaries and the beacons had been reframed after the community had moved there. So they were essentially trespassing on a land that a Nubian community had lived in for 8 decades.
For many, many years. Irongo, as we continue the conversation, you and Amnesty International shared with us some of the photos from the ground, and I think John will be showing that to our audience that's watching this on TV and online. But as a human rights organization, as you went to the ground, did you reach out to the county commissioner, to maybe officials of Kenya Railways, to find out exactly what their side of the story could be? For example, the night demolition, was it preceded by any advance notice, for example, during the day, 24 hours earlier? Had there been any communication coming from the county commissioner or coming from the security agencies and Kenya Railways themselves? Have you spoken to any of these 2 institutions?
We reached out immediately, even before we came to Kisumu, to the Ministry of Interior at the highest level. We also reached out to the office of the county governor, essentially to just hear from them as duty bearers what their side of the story was. We chose yesterday to spend most of the day in Kibos listening to the communities. These are the affected people, and it is their perspective, I think, that really matters in a moment like this for us to understand this and then come back. We are requesting meetings with the county commissioner, the assistant county commissioner, both of whom were involved in the operation that took place. We will also reach out to the office of the county governor and his staff to understand that side of things. And then when we return to Nairobi, I do hope to see the CS for Interior and Transport on this matter. There are a number of parliamentarians who are concerned about this issue, and I think we will probably see some action in the National Assembly soon.
There is a law in this country that caters for a situation such as the one Kenya Railway seems to claim. If Kenya Railway claims that this is their land and they even have documentation for it, there is a simple matter of adverse possession. And if somebody has lived on your land, here it is 12 years, okay? and you have done nothing about it to show or to try and come to an understanding or ask them to leave, then that individual has some rights over that land. Now, we're not talking about 12 years here. We're talking about decades, not a decade, decades. So, from where I sit, it appears that those who forcibly removed this Kenyan community from their land broke not one law, but very many laws in this country. Now, is there any legal action being taken against them?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to weigh the legal options, but I think, CT, you're correct. I mean, several laws have been broken, and even just the principle of justice has been, I just suffocated or punctured in this moment. And I think, the option of adverse possession is still open to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport to lead on this. And I don't think it should be managed at the level of the Managing Director of the railways. I think
No. It's beyond the Managing Director.
It's an injustice. It has to be discussed in Cabinet. And I think, compensation can be offered. The community, as I say, are a humble community. But what was destroyed on Friday night was essentially all that they had. I'm told that one of the old men that I spoke to yesterday was rushed to hospital because of the adverse effects of this emotionally, and also he was in the community when they were being tear gassed and their homes destroyed. So there are a lot of people who are just very wounded, and this unfortunately will not go away unless it is resolved to the satisfaction of the community. And I think this issue is really an issue also for the local leadership, not just at the level of the county governor, but I think for the regional leadership. One of the things that was very shocking for me was to have 2 BBI rallies take place the day before we arrived. I think that was on Monday, and not one word was uttered, either even just in sympathy for what had happened, or a sense of responsibility that action would be taken. And I think the 2 members of parliament need to press this within their respective parties to make sure that as people are building bridges, they're not destroying homes.
There you go. Fatuma, the next few days, perhaps weeks, are going to be very difficult in terms of coming to terms with the surroundings within which you have to live. It's going to be hard. Looking at it now, just from a day to day, what do you need? What needs are clear that you have at this point? Before we even get to registering a new piece of a new area, before talking to government, what absolutely, so that we can have an understanding of what really is going on, what do you need?
What we need as the community, we want even the national government, especially Matiang, even the president, to come on the ground to see the situation we are suffering now as a community. We are homeless. So we are requesting the government, Mr. Matiang, plus the president, to come on the ground to help us as the community. And again, secondly, we want our land back, because we are sure that the land does not belong to Kenya Railways. And we want all the 109 acres to be given to the community with the ownership title deed. We want to remain on our land. Because I remember very well when the Kenya Railway came, one of the officers, I cannot mention his name, he asked me, Fatuma, does your community have the ID? I told him that we are Kenyans, we have the title deed, we are voting, we are doing everything. So we are citizens of Kenya. One of the officers, I can't mention his name, he's from the Kenya Railway office, Kisumu. So I was wondering, why is he asking me such a question?
Okay. It is basically lack of respect for people. Thank you very much, Fatuma, for speaking to us, and we wish you all the best, you and the community. And we want to, at this point, applaud the organizations that are falling in. Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me. There is one of our youth who is being threatened now. He's in danger. He can't sleep. He can't be anywhere. He's being threatened by the person concerned with the eviction. His life is in danger now.
Right. So that's something that also I'm sure Irongo will be able to work with the community on ensuring that this person's safety is guaranteed and assured as well. Thank you very much, Fatuma, and we wish you all the best. You and the community. I was about to say that we want to applaud the organizations that have taken up this matter. Amnesty International Kenya, the Red Cross, moving into with the humanitarian assistance. Asanteni sana. Irongo Houghton is the executive director of Amnesty International Kenya. You'll be following up this story with courts. We will also be following up this story to its logical conclusion, bringing in those who are answerable for this. The Kenya Railways, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Interior, the people, local leadership from county government to local. There's a local ward rep, there's a local MP. What is it that they know and what is it that they're doing to follow this matter through? Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is also time for us to take a break on KTN Home as well. But the conversation continues like we do every weekday morning on Spice FM. If you want to tune into Spice FM in Kisumu, it is 102.5. It's 87.9 in Mombasa, 94.4 in Nairobi. In Nakuru, it's 96.0. Eldoret, 96.7. Nyeri 90.9 and Malindi is 97.7. You can also catch this conversation online because we live stream the show, so you can just watch us on your mobile devices. Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube and on Twitter. 4 minutes to 9. Good morning.
Spice FM Nyeri.
All right, so, when you hear this kind of conversation, on one hand, I want to sit back and think, by the time government officials at the level of Deputy County Commissioner, and the senior management of Kenya Railways are actually mobilizing to come to the ground, they also have something that they believe is what they're doing and that is right, because it's happening openly and publicly.
Maybe they've just been given an order. And they're obeying the orders.
And it will be the first time we've heard about this.
But I'm looking back at the conversations. If, for example, and Fatima is telling us, since 2019, they've had conversations.
15.
Even last year, there were Kenya Railways officers who came, July 31st, they came to the community and they said, all right, so us guys are coming and we'll be coming again. So this is what we intend to do. And we have this map. There's conflicting information here. Somewhere, there's a breakdown in communication.
Their communication was they simply wanted to demarcate their boundaries.
Their boundaries.
Okay? Some even communicated, according to Fatuma, that they had no interest in the land that this particular Kenyan community was living in.
Mm-hmm.
So what changed? What changed? How does somebody live? How do a group of people live in a piece of land for that length of time? There are two communities on this planet who are facing similar problems, but on a far more adverse scale. Okay? One is the group in China, the Uyghur group. Okay? They're Muslims. Then you have Rohingya in Myanmar. These people forget they've been moved even out of the country. Okay? Now, what does this tell me? It tells me what happens when the floodgates of impunity are opened wide. So people just think they can get it. In China, they're saying they're re-educating these people. My friend, they're not re-educating these people. People are being jailed. People are being put in concentration camps. People are being killed. Now, impunity kills people. We were talking about Judy yesterday. Judy Wenjuko yesterday. Now we have a child who has died. A child who did not need to die because some people decided, because they felt they could do what they were told to do, displace these people, because that's what you've done. You're calling it eviction. They've displaced these people. A child has died in the process. Believe me, with all this rain, people who have pre-existing conditions are not going to fare well. And some may yet die. People who did not need to die.
Indeed. And especially even coming after the curfew time has started.
Yes.
To make sure that everybody is indoors.
They're in their homes.
Not only that, so curfew time doesn't apply to them.
Yeah.
They can
make
do
sure
whatever
that people
they
are
want.
indoors and now then come and throw tear gas.
So what exactly were you trying to do?
What was the point? What was the point of doing it in that manner?
Indeed. Well, we will follow this story to its logical conclusion, and you can rest assured of that. That's what we do right here in the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. In the next hour, let's talk about promoting agricultural innovation in Kenya. We will be speaking to somebody. Remember, this is AgriTalk, where we promote meaningful discourse on agriculture, food security, and agribusiness, promoting agribusiness as well. Keep it right here. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so still some traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, headed out into the city. Again, giving information of that notice that was given yesterday of roads having been closed, right, or rather diverted, heading towards Kangemi. So on Ngong Road, both directions, from town to Ngong and Ngong to town, is being described as hell this morning. It's not moving in some places. For the very few vehicles that are there is some traffic. Public transport are not moving. They are on strike because of the entrance of a new bus, and they don't like this one very much. So the people have to suffer, unfortunately. Hopefully traffic will get better in that area, and hopefully they can resolve and get back on the roads, right? Coming off of Mombasa Road, also quite slow. It's drizzling in some parts of the city. Getting into the CBD is slow. Coming from Langata Road, Ngong Road, Mombasa Road, Thika Road, Westlands. Coming off of Jogo Road and Landis Road into the CBD. So traffic looks like quite something this morning. Talk to us on where you might find an option. The eastern and southern bypasses, some of those are there, as well as the Red Hill bypass. Talk to us, however. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text us on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin,
2.5 minutes after 9.
provocateur.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. This is the fourth and the final hour of the show today. We continue live streaming online, and we're also on Spice FM. Let's begin the hour with today's proverb.
When a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful. Not very gender sensitive here. When, yes, a leader, king or queen, has good counselors, their reign is peaceful.
Well done. Good job. I like the
Okay.
way you're inclusive.
Of all genders.
My friend, when you talk about gender in this day and age, there's a multiplicity of it.
Yes, you say all
because
gender.
yes, all is good because there are people who will not be referred to as him or her. They'll be referred to as they.
Yep.
Yep. And they demand that they be acknowledged as such.
Okay, so if they become monarchs, what do you call them? King, queen, queen?
They.
Queen.
Queen.
You refer to them as their majesty.
Or collective majesties. Okay.
Okay, let's have a conversation about agriculture. This is AgriTalk in the Situation Room, promoting meaningful discourse on agriculture, agribusiness, and food security in the country. We will now be joined by Wilson Ngeno, who is the country manager at Yara, Kenya. Wilson, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you.
Off with Yara, Kenya. So Yara is this company that provides agricultural solutions. But just tell us more about Yara and what you do.
So Thank you very much. Yara East Africa is a whole subsidiary of Yara International SAA. Our specialty is fertilizer manufacture and distribution. We operate in over 105 countries across the globe, and our mission is to responsibly feed the world. So we are the pioneer in the fertilizer industry and looking at the crop solutions of feeding the crops. So that's our job actually, is feeding the crops to be able to deliver better yields for the farmers.
So feed the crops and then feed the people.
Absolutely. If you look at the perspective of food sufficiency, there is an angle around food also malnutrition. So whatever you put on the crop, it actually ends up in our plate. So what we look at is what can we give to the crops so that eventually the diet that we have in our plate is able to be actually nutritious. It's not just any kind of food, but actually nutritious to be able to feed the growing population. And as you know, there's a scare that by 2050, our lands will not be able to produce enough food to feed the population. So this calls for a new way of thinking, and that's where innovations is not a subject to actually discuss. It's a subject to be done. We don't have a choice at this point of time.
William, if I can take you just a step back, you said 2050, looked at those studies, land will not be able to feed the population. What exactly does that mean? That in terms of the viability of the land, the soil is not good enough, weather patterns changing. What would be the reason? Not enough water. What would be the reasons why land would not be able to feed the population of the country?
Okay, so if we break it down, looking at the trends, so we start with the current trends. If you look at the current trends, for example, case in point, our country, Kenya, the cereal production, which is our staple food, is actually been declining. So it's going the opposite direction from the population growth. So this is where the world starts to come in play. And the reason is we are using the same technologies that has been used since the agrarian revolution. So it means we need to change the way of working. First of all, the land availability, as we all know, issues around environmental protection. Land will not be, it will not multiply. So we still need to use the same piece of land to be able to feed even a higher number of people. So what it means is that we have to think around soil health. How do we make the current land that is actually arable be able to produce even 2-3 times more without impacting our environment? So this is the situation. The worrying trend is that, we have a situation where our yields are fast going down and the population is going up.
Sure.
So if we have creatively around 2050, that means we have to invest. Because if you look at the big economies that have moved in terms of the agricultural revolution, like Vietnam, Brazil, and even India, it's taken them almost 20-25 years to do this. So if we are looking at that scope, it means things have to change in that direction, actually like yesterday. This is the kind of situation. I'll give you an example. Maize production here in Kenya. Average farmers are doing less than 10 bags of maize. I will talk about maize because it's a common food all across. 10 bags per acre is not sustainable. The same farmers can adopt new technologies and be able to actually produce even 4 times that level.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of innovations that we actually are pushing in the private sector. And that's why also at Yara, we changed our mission a few years ago and we say we want to responsibly feed the world. We want to be part of that conversation around bringing new innovations. How can we contribute to this? And Kenya is in a very pivotal strategic position because we are in sub-Saharan Africa. This is the area where we still have, across the globe, the biggest potential for arable land. If you look at the other markets, Latin America, Europe, they've really gone and utilized most of their land. So we still have big land, and this is an opportunity in the sector also for the youth now who can invest into this kind of innovations to drive the opportunity around feeding the growing population.
Sure, I want to ask you about some of the specific innovations that you're talking about, because as you talk about some of these countries, India, Brazil, we're looking at things like people using very little soil to grow food. We have things like air plants now. We have using very little soil to grow things like vegetables. Are we talking along those lines to say that, okay, fine, land in arable quantity may not be available, but there are other options that we can use and then even grow that to a larger scale? Is that what we're looking at here?
Exactly. So I'll break it down into three kind of themes. So if we look at that segment, is we look at competence. We can look at the first stage, which is competence, and this is tied up with the innovation, because if we are to change the narrative around that productivity, we have to change the competence. So we have to look at how do we reach these smallholder farmers with better knowledge, because ideally, more than 70% of the production is actually done by smallholder farmers. So the competence is what needs to be changed, and this is what these other economies have been able to do over the years. So knowledge delivery systems into the farming communities is very important. How do we reach those farmers? We cannot, the extension system cannot be analog. It has to be digital. So I've seen a lot of investment around that side, and we are also doing something around digital extension system, where we need to empower the farmers at the palm of their hand. They are able to get all the kind of information about how to, what to, when to, and all that. And this translates into looking at what are the effects that affect them. Number one, weather forecast. We have a season of dry spell. We have a season of heavy rains. So how do we change that narrative in terms of competence in order to drive predictive agriculture rather than reactive? Because where we are now, we are on a reactive system. We deal with drought. The drought is here. We deal with it. Then floods. We deal with it at that time. So in terms of competence, we should be aiming at a predictive agricultural systems. And this is where the mature economies have been able to crack it quite well. And I think that's the narrative. We can break it down also here around the competence bit. There is another angle around capacity. And the capacity now, this is where now you come in with the issues about irrigation that you mentioned, because we have to drive the capacity in the agricultural sector. And this is where innovations also come into play. Capacity can be in terms of infrastructure. So you talk about the road, the rails, and the warehousing. You talk about the financial capacity, actually. If you look at other economies that are succeeding in agriculture, the lending rate of agriculture is not more than 8%. When you talk about Kenya, we are talking about 14+%. So that is the disparity around in terms of also building that capacity. So we need that innovation around digital tools, which some of it are in play now, and I will mention them as we go along, the specifics. But also the key element, the third element, is connectivity. The challenge is that we can grow actually food. Soil is just a medium. We can actually grow even food in hydroponics, which is water and all that. But when we talk about arable food, which is a staple for this country, we're still talking mainly maize and wheat, of course. But that can never be grown, of course, in hydroponics. We still need to use the soil because we're talking about the broad acre crops. But when we talk about the horticulture segment, this needs to move fast around other technologies like hydroponic, greenhouses, water harvesting technologies like dam liners and all that. So this is an area also that really can be a driver. So I will summarize it into three. There is competence, there is capacity, and there is connectivity. Because as long as that's 70% of the smallholder farmers who are producing our food are still not connected to service. They are not connected to markets. They're not connected to this. This is where the innovations need to address, and we are already working on some of those innovations around connectivity so that we address these three C's, which, if you trace back to the Green Revolution that happened in India some 1960s, we'll be able to address this. And I think we are in a very pivotal moment to be able to start this kind of switch into more innovative agriculture technologies.
Talking of innovation and something that you mentioned, I like that word, soil health. What percentage of this country consists of what we may call arable land? Yes, that's the first phase of my questions. What percentage of Kenya is arable?
Actually, if you take, we say less than half of our country is arable. So what does that mean? It means we have, in less than half of this country, we have predictive weather rainfall. We have good soils which is not too acidic or too alkaline, so it can sustain crop production. So it means we are even in under pressure because if half of our country is arable, only arable, that means we have to claim more land. We can always get the rest half to become arable, but of course that requires a lot of investment because we have to look at what investments needs to happen. So to answer your question, we can say just half. If you compare with our neighbors, Tanzania, almost 90% of their land is arable, and their land mass is double our country. So considering the peers in our region, we are also under pressure in terms of arable land.
See, the question I really wanted to ask, and why I asked this question first was, when you talk about soil health, what are you doing with areas of our country that are considered to be semi-arid or arid? Does this technology also cater for this sort of land to convert it from being what it is to make it arable?
So if I answer your question on the soil health, so when we mean soil health, so it means how is your soil? That is the structure. Is it able to hold the crops? That's number one. We look at acidity. More than 50% of also the arable land is acidic in Kenya. So what does that mean? It means if a farmer gets a right seed and gets also a right fertilizer, still in an acidic soil, they will not be able to achieve the potential of their productivity. So that is why soil health is important. And what we are doing is, first of all, help the farmer to do a soil analysis. 90% of the farmers don't do that. I think it's mainly the commercial farms. This is the narrative we are driving now for farmers to be able to do their soil analysis. They exactly know what their soils need, because as much as it's like a recommendation from the doctor, they have to do diagnosis and then do that. So it's like a diagnosis in this sector, and we have tools that we are using around that, and we have partners working to ensure that we know the soils and give that recommendation. But also, the disadvantage that has been happening is that the recommendation that has been going to the farmers in terms of fertilizers has been too acidifying fertilizers. In crops like rice, just to give you an example, farmers in Mwea and in the western part, that is the West Kano, Ahero, and all that, these farmers have been using very acidifying fertilizers. So what happens is that over time, your soil becomes too acidic, and it can never actually produce. So we are actually eliminating even what was even less in the arable land. So what we are addressing with our technologies is that we introduce less acidifying fertilizers and do a recommendation based on soil analysis, which comes with soil amendments like lime, which can change the soils back into neutral position that can be able to address these solutions. So these are the kind of things we are working on, but we have to address the issue of the soil health. Going to your question specifically on the drier areas, I think we have not even done enough in the quick wins, which is the more breadbasket regions. So we talk about Western Kenya, Southern Nyanza, we talk about Central Rift, and even the North Rift, which is a breadbasket. A lot still needs to be done. First of all, to change simple technologies like crop rotation, but also look at the soil health and give better recommendations for the farmers, because as much as they're investing in the wrong inputs, what happens is that the return on investment for the farmers is poor, and that's why you hear that farmers complain that the the output prices, like maize prices, is low. Always, output prices is never in a control of the farmers. Why? Because as long as you're producing suboptimally, it will be very difficult to even negotiate for a big to get a better price. And in that case, a farmer will always feel that the input prices are high. But when we change the narrative to increase productivity, the cost by unit area of production goes down, and we are able to drive that angle.
William, as I listen to you,
on your question, maybe on the dry area.
Yes.
If I can just comment now on the dry area.
Go ahead.
if you move to that side now, I would compare this to Israel. As we all know, it's a very dry area. Their system is just basically irrigation, and they export the food. So these dry areas requires a different approach, which is more of new technologies around irrigation and ensuring that water availability to stimulate crop productivity. So that is the kind of narrative that needs to happen around the dry areas. But first of all is to build the foundation about soil health, so that that is the first base to propel the growth.
Soil health. As I listen to you, William, I'm feeling that the job that you're trying to do is a job that used to be done before the structural adjustment programs by the extension officers. From where you sit, do we have enough being done, especially to create awareness to the farmers, from even what you started by saying, building that competence, letting the farmers know this is what needs to happen, to teach the farmers this is how you can maximize your agriculture? This requires extension officers. What do we do to bridge that gap?
So in terms of extension, there is a gap. I must underline that. There is a big gap. And of course, it's the role of the government. And as you know, the agriculture now is a devolved unit. So in extension, actually, it's the role of the county governments for extension. But of course, it's a big gap. We've tried to work with the majority of the counties, but the ratio of extension officers, of course, to the farmers is really quite high. And that is why the thinking is we need to move our systems. And I believe government should be working on this angle. They need to work away from analog systems into digital systems. Because one extension officer in a district, I mean, they will run the whole month without actually delivering key services to the farmers. So I think the systems needs to change into digital. What we are doing on our side as a private sector, of course, we are not able to bridge that gap because the government has to invest in that. But in terms of building our market, is looking at digital systems where we are able to communicate to our systems, to our farmers. And this is a club, of course, now that we are onboarded almost 1 million farmers now in our platform, and they get real-time information. They can call, they can get advisory on how to grow the crop. On a broader scale, this is something I believe the government should be doing on a broader scale in order to, of course, because it's not only about fertilizer, seed, and all that. There will be other issues that, of course, need to be addressed around crop husbandry, legislations, and all that. And so, to answer your question, the systems need to move quickly into digital because we are already late in terms of moving the productivity scale.
William, I see this as a perfect opportunity for, I'm sure the lingo is PPPs, as partnerships between private sector and government. Just what you've said now. Obviously, you've seen what needs to happen, whether government is aware of it or not. You've also talked about the hurdle that government might face, private sector might face. So I see this as a perfect opportunity for the two to be able to come together to work on something which is vital for the entire country. It can't just be private sector working in silos, government working on its own. So if you have the wherewithal technologically, and then you have the wherewithal in terms of the majority of the population, don't you think there is that sweet spot where everybody can come together and work on this thing moving forward, as opposed to everybody working on their own?
Actually, you crack it on there because no institution can be able to change this kind of landscape we are talking about. It has to be a partnership. And if you look at the narrative around public-private partnership, that would be the angle that can change our agricultural sector. The off-takers, the buyers of the produce, what are the quality they need? Counties need to work with private sector partners like ourselves to be able to drive that conversation around how do we achieve that productivity and quality level. A case in point, we launched something called Action Africa, where we onboarded farmers and we able to deliver to them around 80,000 farmers in Kenya a donation of fertilizer as a COVID resilience contribution from our side. Out of that platform, what we are driving now is we want partners to join in, even the media to join in, so that we use that platform as Action Africa to be able to drive the conversation to millions and millions of farmers, off-takers, government agencies, non-government organizations, the donor community who are still funding a lot of money into the agricultural space, to be able to now drive a narrative around PPP. So it cracks onto what you're saying. This requires really a concerted effort. And these are the catalyst systems that we are also trying to put in place now with the counties, because agriculture is devolved, and working with those specific counties, we're looking at what is actually the right fertilizer for Western Kenya, for example. So we just learned last week a specific fertilizer for Western Kenya, which addresses the soil needs. Like Brian was saying, the soil health of that region, we know the mapping of the soils and all that. So this is an example of how a good public-private partnership can really work. What is important for Western? What are the needs there? What are the unique challenges there? We are able to address that. But of course, this needs to be catalyzed quite a lot.
You know, a lot of innovation is required, and organizations such as yours are actually playing, this role. What kind of support do you get from government? We know the Ministry of Agriculture is up there with policy. The county governments are the ones that are handling devolution on the ground. But you, as one organization that is dealing with just agriculture as one input, others are dealing with mechanization, others are dealing with other inputs as well. What kind of support do you receive so far? Not what you require, but what kind of support are you currently receiving from government at both levels, and what would then be the requirements going forward so that all this can work best?
In terms of support is around the logistics front. I know there was a lot of issues in 2020. It's a very unique year around COVID. There was a lot of disruptions on the logistics, but actually government stepped up through the Ministry of Agriculture and ensure that things are flowing in the agricultural space, because we all needed food to be on the table by all means.
Yeah.
But if you look also at the other support that we see from the government is the aggregation. They are running now a digital system on the e-voucher, where now they are moved from the traditional system where a government entity would deliver, and then maybe fertilizer or seed will get lost along the way before reaching the farmer.
Yeah.
So the kind of approach they are going now is really good, because it's empowering the private sector to drive the implementation of the subsidy program, which is actually participatory. It's not free stuff to the farmer, because a serious farmer invests and a contribution from the government. This is the kind of catalyst I think can really change the narrative. And this system has been done very well in Rwanda. And by the way, Rwanda is actually producing, total productivity factor for Rwanda is quite high than us. Same to Tanzania. So, and this is a system they have used before. So what we see from the ministry now is very good, because you're driving into the private sector. And private sector then allows for competition. When there's competition, then the consumer, the farmer, is able now to get the quality service and across the sector, whether it's a technology, whether it's an input, whether it is in the market front. And I think this is the strongest support I can see now moving that. I hope it becomes more sustained. But there are still opportunities around partnership there, as you asked, Brian, because the extension officers, I feel, is still understaffed. So that needs to really be an area that can an opportunity for growth in the public space.
Thank you very much, William. As we conclude the conversation, people who would like to get into that database of yours, you're saying you have about 1 million or so farmers. If there's a farmer who's listening and they are not receiving this useful information from you, how would they be able to engage with you?
So soon we will be broadcasting it. So what happened, we have already 1 million farmers registered on the platform. What we are doing now is actually onboarding into applications. So soon, by next month, we should be able to communicate afresh to the farmers who want to join. So it's temporarily closed. And because we have to run the pilot, it's done now. So soon we will be moving fast now to open to the broad mass. And I will tell the farmers to be keen. They will be getting information through our channels and also through your media sources on how they can register and benefit from this. But my key message to them is, look, we have opportunities around soil health. They can walk to the nearest distributor across the country and ask about Yara offers around soil health and all that, and they can be able to get the tools to be able to work on that. And then all across, we have also toll-free lines which they have access to call for information apart from the digital system.
Interesting conversations there, and of course, you can count on us be your partners on disseminating this information and engaging further and further on what needs to be done to improve our productivity and get to a point where we can talk about food security in the country and competitiveness in our agriculture.
Yes, I think media really plays a key role around this because, as I said before, we are late. So we would like to partner with you, and it's good sign that it actually shows like this is what is very important, because then we can be able to address these nitty-gritties around what needs to be done now and move really fast. So partnering with you is a very good venture, that we can have programs that can reach to the masses in this century.
Yep. William Ngeno, Country Manager, Yara Kenya, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. We'll hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And this is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, 9:30. Let's look at the weather forecast and also the situation on the roads. Good morning.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this. Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below.
The weather with Spice FM.
Okay, so we're still looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We will see later highs of 21, and they will be cloudy throughout most of the day. Let's take a look then into Nyeri, and we will see also cloudy conditions, rain in some parts of the country, or rather in some parts of the town. Looking into Nakuru. Highs of 26, lows of 17, and we'll also see some rain expected throughout Nyeri town. Looking into Eldoret, also cloudy conditions, highs of 21. In Kisumu, we'll see highs of 30, cloudy conditions through most parts of the morning, highs of 31 also in Kakamega, and we will see also cloudy conditions in Mombasa at the moment, 26, 27 in Malindi at the moment, 22 in Kampala, a chance of rain later on. Dar es Salaam, still sunny at this point. Johannesburg, sunny conditions as well. Lagos, there's a bit of rain this morning, but it's cleared up for now. A chance of rain in Kinshasa later on. Beijing, still at freezing at some point. There was a snowstorm in Paris, and that continues for now. In London, still cold. We're looking at highs of flat on zero coming into Wednesday morning. In New York, we're looking at freezing conditions. Highs of -1 and lows of -5.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive, and of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be.
So we're still seeing traffic on Gong Road. We expect that to be for some time. It's slippery in some parts of the city because of the rain. However, Mombasa Road is given the all clear. Not a problem, at least until you get to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Slows down a little bit, and then getting into the CBD will take you some time. But for the most part, it's looking pretty good. We'll be out of traffic hours soon. We still have that problem. Remember, for the whole day, we're looking at that diversion that's taking place right around Westlands, Kangemi up there. So James Gishuru is an option, or the Red Hill bypass go round. It'll be longer, but you will not be stuck in traffic. Okay, be careful, guys. Talk to us through the day. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
O'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Siti Muga Nduoko and Eric Latif. As we're having the conversation with Irungu Houghton and Fatuma Bilali from Kibos, Siti, you were quite disturbed by what's happening there. And it's not just in Kibos, in various other estates in Kisumu as well.
I'm actually really very disturbed because the demolitions, Kibos is where you had this large settlement of Kenyans and who've been living there for the longest possible time. But there were demolitions of houses in Muhoroni, in Koru, in Lela and Otongolo areas.
When? This year? Last year? Within?
February 8th.
This year?
Yes. But before that, last year, there were demolitions of business premises within Kisumu town. Land adjacent to the port area, to the railway areas. There have been individuals who've been conducting business in those areas for the longest times.
Right.
And these were demolished. When I queried and asked whether they had been given notices, yes, some said they had been given notices, some said they had not been given notices. But it wasn't just this. There had been very many businesses that were on road reserves. On your way to the estates just within the town, small, what we call kiosks, okay? Many of these were also demolished. Now, what that meant was that people whose livelihood was based on small-scale trading, that came to an abrupt end. And when I say demolished, I mean demolished, okay? Now, Irungu Houghton mentioned something that I thought is worth mentioning again. The laws that around which processes like demolition must take place. And from my understanding, it appears that this has not been done. Kibos has been highlighted because of the literal human habitation tragedy and everything around it.
Yeah.
But it isn't less than the tragedy that has followed the livelihood of, for instance, you're saying Luangni Market, where people went to eat fish.
Yeah.
They were moved, I'm told, to the Dunga area. There are traders who were around then. It isn't as though their circumstances are less. It means when that business is demolished, essentially what you've done is you've brought the livelihood to a halt. So what have you done? You've introduced an entire new class within a town setting whose entire existence is now poverty-driven. Yes. Now, that is what has happened. And when you saw the perturbed look on my face, I was thinking yes, if the land is indeed railways, and a lot of that land was railways, there are those who said they even had an understanding with the Kenya Railways office in Kisumu, and that they could show documentation that they had leased the land. So essentially, it was a temporary temporary occupation.
Yeah.
But of significance, what legitimized these was the county government also licensed them to function. Yes.
They gave them the business permits.
They did, and they paid for these business permits. Now, against all this, the thing that was disturbing me, the thing that is still disturbing me is this. In this day and age, and in this time when all the politicians who are worth their weight in salt in this country are talking about looking after the welfare of the common man, how is it then that we are faced with this grim reality of the common man actually being mistreated? Mistreated how? Being thrown out into the cold, being thrown out into the rain, having their livelihood demolished. How exactly do these two narratives play?
It's not.
How does it play?
It doesn't.
And when I say how does it play, I don't even hear a whimper. I don't even hear a whisper from any politician, saying or condemning this. I don't hear. Or querying and asking questions. I don't hear. So who are they representing really?
Who exactly are they talking about? When you say, for example, in Kisumu, where all these demolitions have happened this month, there was a major meeting that brought in governors from the region and county leadership from the region and also officers from the national government into one meeting.
One big meeting.
BBI and what it portends for the people. At least one of them could have left there and gone to visit some of these people and said, this is what's happening. This is what we can do.
Have you heard of any even going now?
Nope. You don't hear about it.
Condemning it and saying it's bad is easy. Oh, that's the really genuinely easy
chap,
part.
chap.
Because obviously it is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
I
But
don't have
offer
to be
a
a
solution.
Yes. Actually, if you're in a position of some authority, this is an opportunity where you say, no, folks, these are our citizens. There's something we need to do about this.
There's something that can be done. That's the thing that's a little bit more unsettling for me, is that there are many things that can be done. Even just looking at some of the pictures that we've seen coming out of there, the things that we've heard people say, there are many, many things that can be done. Even while you're waiting for the situation to unfold, to look at the legality of it and procedures, this, that, the other thing, there are many things which are needed today. There are many things which need to be done now. There are conversation starters that need to be kicked in now. But what do we hear? Deafening silence. And so when you say, yes, we are doing this we care for our people.
Which people?
I really left to wonder which people it is that you say you care for. And somebody say, oh, it's a small community. No.
No.
One person,
No.
one person to which something happens is
3,500
representative of the entire
is a very big
country.
community. Even if you talk about the traders. So if this process, for example, had begun so many years back, all right, let's just give it 5 years building onto this particular demolition, the demolitions that are taking place now in Nakuru, in Kisumu, all the way. The local administration, the government could have looked at, okay, so these people live here. They may need to move. Let's start having a conversation of this is a place that you can move to. If it's a traders, for example. Yes, you are there. You are on the railway land and you've been operating here for a long time. Let's start the conversation of this is where you can move to, and then say, okay, structures are ready. Business premise is ready. This is where you're moving to. From tomorrow, let's go. Not saying come and demolish and then we start working on now.
No.
From next week, we'll have a kiosk ready for you. What happens between now and next week? What do I eat between now and next week? Let's hear from some of the callers. James is in Kisumu. James, good morning.
Actually, I'm in Kisumu, Kibos.
You're in Kibos.
Eric. Morning, Eric.
Good morning to you, James.
Morning to you, City and Ndu.
Good morning, sir.
And a request, should this phone go off, I hope you'll call me back, because I want to make some serious contributions on this issue.
Go ahead.
Eric.
Yes.
I like napenda kusema vitu kwa ukweli. You see these residents in Kibos, the ones who are talking.
Yep.
First, the railways guys came in the year 2011.
Mm-hmm.
They held a meeting with all the elders openly.
Okay.
And they were told, you guys, where you're kwenye mko, that land was bought by the government years back.
Mm-hmm.
And it is meant for the railways quarters.
Okay.
So these guys wakaambiwa mwanze kujipanga mapema. Actually, they were given a land huko juu pande ya Kajulu. But they say that area is too far, they can't go there.
Mm-hmm.
So, come 2019, these guys again came with another reminder. The first notice was in 2011. They came again in 2019 with another reminder.
Mm-hmm.
That you guys, you're supposed to relocate to where you had already been told to go. Then they started, no, we can't. Then they told, okay, where you are, there comes a time mtatolewa hapa. Sasa nzeni kujipanga mapema. Then come last year.
Mm-hmm.
They will now issue another reminder of 2019 notice.
Mm-hmm.
They were told, you guys are supposed to vacate.
Yeah.
Then COVID came in. And actually last year, some people had already started demolishing their own structures. Then when COVID came in, the railway guys still halted the demolitions because of the COVID issue.
Mm-hmm.
So guys started again rebuilding. And then, this year, these guys were given another notice, and they were told you're supposed to vacate by February 4th. So when it came that day, the county commissioner, together with the railway guys, they wanted to negotiate with them and maybe to understand why these people have not relocated.
Mm-hmm.
Then these people started halting insults.
We've lost James. Let's see if we can get him back. He had actually already pre-warned us that this could happen. So he says meetings have taken place with the community over many years, from 2011 coming again into 2019, another community meeting, alternate land identified, and the community being alerted and being told, all right, there's this piece of land in Kajulu, you can move there, because this one, the government took up this land a long time ago, and it's earmarked for construction of staff quarters for Kenya Railways.
There are staff quarters of railways.
Okay. So you can't live there, but other folks can.
Live there. No. Staff quarters, railway, Kibos.
Come
Look,
on.
if you know where the railway in Kibos is, I do.
Mhm.
Okay? There is land on either side.
He's back, James. James?
Okay, thank you for calling me back, Eric.
All right. So you're telling us about this chronology of meetings that have taken place between authorities and the community.
And I'm telling you, not on basis that at a hearsay. I personally attended those meetings.
In what capacity?
And you see, where I live is approximately 150 to 200 meters from the Nubian estate where it was demolished. So these guys, when those people came, the county commissioner came together with the people of Rangers. They wanted to understand why have you not relocated as we had agreed earlier on. These guys started throwing insults. And then it is from the insults that make the county commissioner to get but because actually when you are talking to the county when I listened to what they were saying, they wanted to give these people another extension of about two weeks to 1 month. Yes, and actually the demolitions are not supposed to happen on that very day. It was supposed to be extended because they wanted to give them chance and even room to maybe to find places to go.
James, I got to ask you a couple of questions. So one, you say you attended these meetings, you live nearby.
Yes.
So were you attending because this was a meeting where you had been invited, or in what capacity were you attending the meetings?
This meeting was put across, it was just open, it was open air.
Okay.
Actually, where when you come to Kibos, there's a place, this place we call Mti Kubwa. It's a big tree there. So the meeting was there and it was open for everyone to attend. Even though they specifically invited the chief, the sub-chief, and the village elders. But anyone else was allowed to attend.
Did the community leaders talk about the fact that they had lived on this land before independence, since 1938, and raising that particular question?
And apparently, they never brought that issue up. First, let me explain something. You see, in this area of Kibos, most of the lands were bought by the government years back. And then when they were bought by the government, then you know how government takes time to do their projects and so on. So people come and grab the land, and they start living there. So we have not just the issue of Nubian. There are so many other cases that are around here. Even at the moment as you're talking, there's a road that is being built and is being constructed, and people are already being told to evict because where they have been staying has been a government land for years. But you see, somebody comes and cons you and sells it to you.
So there's a case of squatters.
Yeah.
And there's a case of community being moved, because this particular community says they've been here since 1938, and they were moved here because the government had bought another piece of land, then they wanted to put up an airport and an agriculture research institute. You see what they're talking about, the airport where it is, in a place known as Kogonye. That is where my wife comes from. Yeah. Yeah, so the land they're and talking about actually is like ancestral land. Like part of it was my wife's ancestral land, and that is what the government bought from. So they were not relocated to Kogonye. Kogonye are people from Musoma. So what I'm trying to explain, the issue of Kibos actually is something that the railways guys and the government have been in contact with the community and explaining to the people that look, you guys, where you are, it belongs to the railways. Yes. So I can even remember, like, when this started in that 2011, my landlord by that time had already noticed that where he is actually closed, and he started removing his things, and he had to find another place.
So where you're coming from, essentially, what you're telling us is that
adequate
notice was given. You're saying that so you're saying that people who have been whose homes have been demolished in this manner were aware that this was going to happen and that they should have moved.
They've been aware for 10 good years.
So you're saying should have moved?
They should have moved. Actually, they have been given time, to be sincere. Because
But are you aware, James, that these people also have some rights because
they've been there since we're talking about 80 plus years.
Yeah, but you see, for example, I'll tell you, even you driving like a government car for even for 40 years does not mean that it belongs to you.
Actually,
there is some right of ownership.
yes, there is some right
have.
of ownership
Yeah.
when it comes to land. Actually,
I wouldn't dispute on that. Because you see, let me give you another scenario. This one now even happens to me. You know the first demolition that happened, the railway demolition happened in Kisumu first, was in Winmart, the area Winmart, next to Varsity Plaza, Maseno Varsity Plaza. So by that time I used to have a shop at Winmart. Winmart was a very big market. I used to have a barber shop. I used to operate there, a barber shop and a salon. And then there was this guy, one specific railway estate manager, who was assigned in Kisumu, was known by the name Mr. Zombo. Used to be my customer for close to 5 years. And he told me that you guys, you know where you're operating, this land has an issue with the railways. And one time, railways will come to demolish this place.
But James, that land you speak of was actually railway land. It was known as railway land.
It is.
And people who occupied that land even had leases from the railway. At least they said they had paper that showed that they were officially there because they had been given some form of temporary occupation capacity. Was that not so?
That one you're talking about Winmart. If you're referring to Winmart, the person who was holding there is a lecturer at Maseno, and he's a friend by the name Shem. Apparently, this particular lecturer, had his own schematics way of acquiring that place. So when we confronted him before the demolitions, and we told them, okay, you've been telling us that you have the title deed. Kindly show us the title deed. Then we realized this person had been he had gone to court. He had been having a court case with the railways. That actually he already lost the case some years back. So
that land that you speak of was always railway land. It was not land that an individual had owned.
Yes, it was a railway land, but
yes, it always was railway land. Okay,
according to how I was told by Mr. Zombo, that is the railway estate manager.
Yes.
He told me that if you want a land from railways, there's a process. You go to them, you apply for that land. After you apply for the land, you are given an account to which you pay, and that account you'll be paying like on a yearly basis. So when you paid for a number of
that is just you're paying for using the land, isn't it? Not buying it.
You're not buying it. You're using the land.
Okay.
Yeah, you're using the land. So that is what it used. That is what it used to be. So when this guy told us that these people, and he started telling us like 5 years before the demolition took place at around 2019. But he started telling me that like in 2014, like one time these people will come to demolish this place. One time. So when it came, actually myself I was already prepared, and I told them, like he even called me like, these people are going to demolish like in the next 2 weeks. If your things are around there, kindly find a way of move them and find another place. And within a short time I saw a notice. And when I saw that notice I realized then I had to send people on this, and I secured them. So those people who were too late for this were caught up in that issue. Then there's also another issue where I have heard that you've talked about in the newspaper is there about Makasembo. There's a program by the government. I'm meant to understand. Like the first estate that has been brought down is the Anderson estate. It's just beyond. It is just as in opposite United Mall. That the people who used to live there, I have in-laws who used to live there. They had been given money for relocation because the government wants to put new structures. They're doing away with the old structures. They're building now new structures. So what the government does, they are given money to find new places. Once they are through with the structuring, then you are given first priority to be an occupant of that house. And that program is not running. Is not only in Anderson, because it is also affecting Makasembo Estate. It is from Makasembo Estate. It is supposed to go to Ondieke Estate. From Ondieke Estate, it is going to Arena Estate. From Arena Estate, it is coming to Lumumba Estate. Then from Lumumba, it is coming to Kibuye Estate. From Kibuye Estate, it is coming to Mosque Estate. Then from Mosque Estate, it is going to Kaluleni Estate. And these people, they are already aware because the people who are in the government officials who are in charge of that program, went to them door to door and told them that there comes a time that this house will be put down. So they want to know who are the real owners of the house. So
you know, James, those houses that you speak of are actually former council houses, and they are now county houses. So the people who live there don't own those houses; they are tenants.
Yeah, we have tenants and we have the people who are living there. You see, a tenant is, for example,
Yes,
I own
you
a
have
house.
tenants and you have subtenants.
Occupier.
Yeah. So you see, maybe let me say I have the house, then I rent it out to someone else. That is what some are doing. So when they come, they want to know the real owner of the house. So
James, there's a question I want to ask you here. When you say that there is evidence that all these meetings were held and all these notices were given, you say there is evidence. And yet when we speak to occupants of that same locality, they tell us that no such thing happened.
And that is why I'm saying I like when you say something, let us be honest when you're talking about it. Because we should not just talk because we are now wounded.
All right. So let me ask you, since you attended the meeting, let me ask, in the spirit of honesty, do you have any idea how many village or how many elders that community had? And if you know the number, were they all in that meeting?
I can remember from Nubian, there were 3 people who came to represent.
And you think you believe 3 people is representative of that entire community of 3,500 people?
So I do not know if that is what they had themselves selected, or rather they just came on their own. I would not say, but they say they came 3 of them. There were 3 elders who came.
Was there a follow-up in writing, like any notices that were then circulated within the community, saying this is?
You see, the notices have been in writing. Actually, they come and they pin it on the whatever on the doors. They come and pin it on the doors and on the how do you call these things? The electric poles.
Yeah.
Some people, those who have shops, who have been affected, they are given personally. Yeah, and you're told like this, and they could do it. It's not once and it's not twice. It's about 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask, where are you currently? Where are you now?
I'm in Kibos. If you take this call, you'll find me in Kibos.
Are you, all right. Are you in the area where these demolitions took place? Are you living on the periphery, a little bit far away? Where are you?
I have been in. Where I am is just a walking distance to where that issue that the demolition took place.
Okay, so your property, your home, where you reside, was not demolished.
No, it wasn't demolished.
Okay, so you are on the outside looking in.
We are on the outside, but I've been there on that material day. That thing happened on Friday. I was there on Saturday. I was there on Sunday. I was there yesterday. So I've been there all through, because you see that place where it was demolished. Apparently, it happens to be it is next to the market area where we get our day-to-day bread. So you can see if you go to the market. If you go to the Boss market, you can just see the entire demolition there.
Okay.
James, we thank you very much for giving us this other side of the story and the insights that you're telling us. So you attended the meetings, to the best of your knowledge. Kenya Railways and government officers have been coming to the ground and alerting the people about the need to move, and also giving them ample notice to relocate. We'll follow up the matter with officials from the ground. The Kenya Railways will also follow it up with the county commissioner's office and find out exactly what's happening. I mean, like you say, it appears there have been meetings, and also Fatima confirmed that yes, there were meetings as far back as July last year. There was also another meeting that took place. Thank you very much for these insights. Keep it right here. We'll be reaching out to you as well to find out the progress as we discuss these matters.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, have a lovely day too.
2 sides to every coin.
Indeed.
Many sides. And also, like we said, by the time they're getting on the ground and they're government officers, they must have something that they claim that they have done. All right? But at the same time, let's look at what is it that has happened over the years with the community engaging with the Ministry of Land, the National Land Commission, and all that. So what's the status of that? Coming to the top of the hour, the end of the show, CT, 2 days, proverb.
All right. Simply put, when a king has good counselors, his reign is peaceful. When anyone who is in leadership has a bevy of good advisors, then not only is their position secure, But those who live under his rule or under his care live peacefully. Yes.
Key here is good counselor.
Good counselor.
And for there to be a good counselor to the king, then you require a king who can identify good counselors.
And a king who is willing to listen to his
good counsel.
Yes.
Okay. And a king who can recognize peace. Thank you very much for